The story begins in sometime in the 1980s, where we see a South Korean secret agent being tied up in chains. The man has hands tied up and hanged, while we see that his body is filled with bruises and injuries, and blood splattered all over him. The man then softly asks for food, which angers everyone who were torturing him. They say to him that it might be common in South Korea for them to give infiltrators food to eat, but that is not what they do in their great nation of North Korea. The man once again speaks up, and he repeats the same notion that he wants some food, and if they give him food, he will do anything. He says that if they offer him food to eat, he will cooperate with them and tell them everything starting from who he is, what his rank is, and what their intentions were. The man says that he took up this job so that he could eat well and lead a happy life, but as it stands, he will not be alive for long due to the hunger, so he will do it. Everyone are a bit skeptical about this, but the captain of the division tells the man that they will give him food, but only if he promises to reveal all the information about the mission he was conducting and which pathway he used to infiltrate into North Korea. The man agrees, and the captain tells his underlings to bring food. One of them is a bit worried about giving this man food, but the captain yells at him and tells him that if they don't manage to get anything out of him and send him to a higher division, they won't get any credit for their work and the higher division will take the cake. However, if they manage to get information out of him, it will be beneficial for the entire division. And so they proceed, and bring the man some rather peculiar-looking soup and rice to eat. They still don't let his hands free and keep it tied together with chains, but they give him a spoon and chopsticks to eat with. The man then sits down and starts eating the food. As he uses the spoon to taste the soup for the first time, he tells the North Korean officers that while he had heard that North Korean food was full, he still can't understand why the soup tastes so bad and what had they mixed in it. He further goes on to say that all military food suck badly and that even the rice is too hard to swallow. This angers the North Koreans, who feel like the South Korean infiltrator is being disrespectful and ungrateful for what they're doing for him. They tell him to just eat up or they'll finish him and tell him the taste of food is not important. Right then, we see a chopstick that was thrown at immaculate speed go and impaled the head of the North Korean division captain. The captain then falls down and it causes eruption in the North Korean camp. The South Korean man then says that the taste of the food is very important. The North Koreans then get enraged and go to attack the man all at once. The man just stands there with a chopstick in hand. Sometime later, we see that his hands and the chopstick are painted over with blood. We then see that the North Korean officers are all down and out from the beating that the man handed to them. The man then says that he will keep his promise to them, as they fed him. The man then says that his name is Do Jang-on, and he is the first sergeant of South Korea's intelligence department. Do Jang-on says that he infiltrated to North Korea via swimming through the ocean, and that the reason why they sent him to North Korea was so that he could go there and finish off the Northerners, just like how he finished off the people in the room. Jang-on then throws the remaining chopstick in his hand towards a mosquito that was bugging him for a while, and the chopstick ends up finishing the mosquito by embedding it to the wall. Jang-on then says that he has realized that he shouldn't do this kind of work anymore. A few months after this incident, the story is back in Seoul, where we see Do Jang-on at a restaurant with his boss, Lieutenant Colonel Park, who orders 2x meat soup and rice to get into Jang-on's good books as he is passionate for food. Colonel Park tells Jang-on that he is by far the most efficient man they have at work, so he doesn't know why Jang-on is quitting all of a sudden, when he has been so good about work lately. Jang-on then says that it is because of the drop in food quality at the military which makes him want to quit. We then see that their ordered food had arrived and Colonel Park prepares the soup and rice specifically for Jang-on to eat. However, Jang-on says that he doesn't eat that way. Jang-on then shows his passion of food by telling Colonel Park about how he eats. Jang-on says that he scoops more than half of the rice from the bowl but doesn't take it entirely. Then he puts the rice into the soup and mixes it before consuming it. This way he can enjoy his food without worrying about leftover rice after soup finishing. Colonel Park then asks Jang-on just why had he had to quit. Is it because of the mission? To which Jang-on says that it is not about the mission. Colonel Park makes it clear that the main objective of the mission was to infiltrate North Korea and come back alive. And that is what Jang-on has done, so the mission wasn't a failure. Jang-on says that it is not about that at all. Colonel Park then smiles before telling Jang-on to eat first and talk later. Jang-on says that he is thankful to Colonel Park, to which the man asks why, and Jang-on replies by saying that he is thankful to Colonel Park because how he gave him the opportunity to eat well and earn money when he had nothing. Colonel Park says that it is okay and that Do Jang-on is one of their best ever men, and that his contributions will be remembered for years to come. Later on, we see that Jang-on has started working at a construction site, and his co-workers are all gaga about how energetic and strong he is at work. One of them says that he has decades of experience in carrying these things, but Jang-in makes it look easy by comparison. We then see Do Jang-on running around with tons of weight on his back, climbing stairs and overall, working very hard to get used to things. Jang-on says that what Colonel Park said was the truth because while his skills are being acknowledged, he still has a hard life going on for him. However, he is not looking back again, and he is going to try in his own way. We see that after working, in the afternoon, Do Jang-on goes to the bank nearby to deposit his money. Upon entering the bank, he looks at a very beautiful girl at the reception, and they both smile and greet each other. We then see the backstory of what went down between them. One day, when Jang-on got his daily wages, one of his co-workers told him to not spend the money on alcohol or other bad habits like a lot of the people working there were doing. Instead, he should save it. After all, he is a young man, and a young man should save his money. Jang-on didn't quite understood what that meant, but as he didn't have anything to do in general, let alone do anything with money, he decided to go and save his money at the bank nearby. And upon going there, he meets this very beautiful woman, who smiled at him for opening an account, and at that moment, Do Jang-on was blown away by her. From that day onwards, Jang-on went to the bank every day in the afternoon to deposit 5,000 won, which is a small amount, but it gave him an opportunity to see the beautiful lady every day. First, he wanted her to recognize him by the face, then they also remembered each other's name, the girl's name being Song Si-in-ah, and that is how a relationship automatically formed between the two, like how interest forms when you save in a bank account. We also learn that Si-in-ah is a hard-working lady, and even though she had very loving parents, they were very poor. So right after completing high school, Si-in-ah began working at the bank. Do Jang-on told her how he was working in the military and now works at construction, and she asked why doesn't he have money from his military days, to which he replied by saying that he gave away all his earnings to the family of the ones who passed away while working with him because they had families unlike him. This really impressed Si-in-ah, and she was deeply touched by it. Back to current time, and Si-in-ah tells Jang-on to actually save up his money and deposit a big amount for once at the end of the month instead of coming every day to deposit. Jang-on says that if he starts doing it that way, then he will be only able to see her once a month. This makes Si-in-ah blush a lot, and Jang-on realizes that this is the reason for him to live on now. However, just because he has a reason doesn't mean he has it easy, as living every day is still very hard for him. We then see Jang-on lay down on his bed as some news about the Daesan Welfare Organization goes on. Jang-on wonders that ever since he became an adult, he was being trained to do some very hard stuff, and he got good at those in the military. However, since leaving that job, he has not been able to utilize his skills he knows best, and it is showing as he doesn't earn a lot and wants to eat and live well. Right then, someone knocks on his door, and upon opening it, Jang-on sees that it is Staff Sergeant Jo Tae-moon, who was a good soldier but quit the job for personal reasons. Tae-moon then enters his house, and Jang-on tells him that he must have it good because of his luxurious watch. Tae-moon says that he is paid well at his current job. Jang-on asks how he got his address, to which Tae-moon says that he got it from asking at the military office, who informed him that Jang-on quit, and then he searched around the vicinity to find him. Tae-moon then says that he has a job offer for Jang-on. Jang-on asks what kind of job is Tae-moon referring to, and Tae-moon tells him that he is talking about the kind of job that Jang-on is best at. We then see Jang-on telling Tae-moon that he doesn't want to dirty his hands, and Tae-moon tells him that he doesn't need to finish off anyone for good, it's just that he wants him to beat up someone. Jang-on then asks Tae-moon just what kind of job is he doing, to which Tae-moon says that he is just a public representative on the outside, but really speaking, he is the leader of a gang, and the person he wants Jang-on to beat up is the leader of an opposition gang who has been picking fights with them over little things. Jang-on then says that he won't quit his day-to-day job to do something like that, as he doesn't identify with that kind of work. Tae-moon then flips the situation by asking Jang-on if he quit the military job to live in such a rundown place and work at a construction site of all places. Jang-on gets stung by this and tells Tae-moon to show some respect to his living. Tae-moon then says that he will offer Jang-on 50 million won in cash to do this job for him, and with that money he can do whatever he wants, buy a house in Seoul or even start his own business. This shocks Jang-on as 50 million won is equivalent to 37,000 US dollars, and what is basically equivalent to 10,000 days of work for Jang-on. Tae-moon then says that it is really up to Jang-on if he wants that kind of money or not, and if he ever decides to change his mind and stance on these things, he can contact him and gives him his card. He then tells Jang On that his office is at Daesan and that he can get there by taking an expression bus in no time. As Taemoon prepares to leave, he says that he doesn't understand how a person like Do Jang On is staying away from what he does best to do work like this and to live in a place like this, and leaves. Later on, Jang On lays down as he tries his best to sleep. However, the rats which live above the roof of the house are making noises and it ruins his sleep. He then contemplates on what to do. However, he decides that he will rather stick to his current job and observe a bit more before making a move. As he sleeps, he keeps thinking about what Taemoon said about Jang On wasting his skills for no reason whatsoever. The next day, Jang On goes to work and sees that there are a lot of heavy cartons and boxes for him to carry. Jang On asks the boss about where the other guys are, and the boss replies by saying that he noticed that Jang On is beyond impressive at work, and so he only called Jang On and didn't call anyone else for work, because he knows that Jang On will be able to handle all the work on his own. Jang On then looks on as he looks more and more disinterested in his current life. Meanwhile, outside the bank, we see that Seon Ah is having a drink and a chat with her co-worker. The co-worker asks Seon Ah why she is happy during the afternoon, and is it because Do Jang On comes during that time? Does she like him or what? Seon Ah gets a bit flustered by this and replies that Do Jang On comes to the bank every day and makes daily depositions, so if this was a store, he would be considered a regular customer and would command better treatment, which is exactly why she treats him kindly. The co-worker then said that it makes sense when Seon Ah puts it that way, because after all, Jang On isn't a particularly good-looking man. He isn't handsome by the standards and isn't even rich. This statement angers Seon Ah, but she hides it and says that, at least Jang On has a nice body, to which the co-worker replies by saying that it's only because he is a construction worker and has to carry heavy items. This was the final straw for Seon Ah, as she gets angry and says that not all construction workers have good bodies, and that her father was a construction worker too and he doesn't have a body like that. Seon Ah then further says that the co-worker should stay out of her business and let her be, and then Seon Ah will stay out of her business because Seon Ah is aware of her affair with the manager and such. This scares the co-worker and she agrees to Seon Ah before going away. Later, we see that Seon Ah is back at work after her break, and she wonders just why she got so mad when her co-worker was insulting Do Jang On. And at that very moment, Jang On shows up and Seon Ah gets surprised because it is not time for him to come yet. However, Jang On clarifies that he is here because he didn't have work and that he wasn't there to deposit money and only came to see her. Jang On then says that he will be back soon and this time he will make a big deposition and he leaves. Seon Ah wonders why he has been coming to see her and blushes. We then see that Jang On had gotten on the express bus to Daesan, and we also learn that he had already called Taemoon to take up the job and went straight to take the bus. We then see him arriving to the spot where Taemoon and one of his driver were already waiting. They take Jang On to the car and start moving. Taemoon then explains that the guy he is supposed to take out is called Park Kwan-ho, and that he is the leader of an opposition gang. Taemoon explains the conflict between them and says that if he went to attack him, there would be issues in the business. However, if a third party attacks him, it should be fine, and that is where Jang On comes into play. Taemoon says that Kwan-ho must have anticipated something like this and has a lot of underlings with him. Jang On asks him if they can make it before 4:30 p.m. and Taemoon is left confused by this. Jang On says that the bank closes at 4:30, so he needs to finish stuff quickly and go back to the bank, and asks Taemoon if he can make that happen. Taemoon says that it will be dangerous as he has many guards and one of them is a huge Korean traditional wrestler. Jang On doesn't care though, and Taemoon remembers just who Jang On is and tells the driver to take the car to where Park Kwan-ho is eating currently. Jang On asks which food is the best in that restaurant, and the driver responds by saying the dumplings are the best. And off goes Jang On to the restaurant. The driver is worried and asks Taemoon if this is okay, and Taemoon says that there isn't another person like Jang On Earth and that he will deal with. Inside the restaurant, we see that Park Kwan-ho is surrounded by his men while eating, and one of the men is, as mentioned, the huge wrestler guy. Jang On takes a seat at the restaurant and orders some dumplings, which he enjoys in his own style as a food connoisseur, and upon being done, he throws a mug towards where Kwan-ho was sitting, and this angers everyone from that camp as they ask Jang On why he did that. Jang On just simply replies to them that he wants to get into a fight, because he found the sounds they were making while eating to be annoying. This angers Kwan-ho, as he then orders his men to go beat up Jang On. Jang On smirks as the guys come to beat him up, and we get a flash forward, where we see that Jang On has beaten up all the guys with ease, as we see their bloody and beaten up body on the floor alongside the food that was spilled. We see that a bloodied and battered Park Kwon-ho is totally dumbfounded as to what happened. He asks Jang On why did he do what he do and who is he, because he had never seen someone so strong in their work field. Jang On says that he can remember him as the one dude with severe anger issues. Kwon-ho then asks Jang On if Jo Tae-moon paid him to do this, and besides that, how much did he pay him to do this? Whatever the amount was, Kwon-ho is willing to double the amount if Jang On works for him. This interests Jang On for a second, as he wonders that doubling 50 million won would be 100 million won, which is a lot better than 50 million. However, Jang On wonders if Kwon-ho can even pay that large an amount to him. We then see Park Kwon-ho telling Jang On that it isn't required for him to think about it, as we see the large wrestler get back up and use a chair to attack Jang On from behind. Jang On is taken in by surprise, and he puts his arms up to block the chair shot by reflexes and somehow manages to stop it, but it hurt his arm a lot. Kwon-ho then orders his huge monster to attack again, which he obliges and tries to do, but this time Jang On is aware and he kicks him straight in the family jewels to make him lose all sense. Jang On then follows it up with a loaded up axe kick to take out the big dude. This surprises Kwon-ho again, and Jang On asks him if it is 4:30 p.m. yet, to which Kwon-ho says that it isn't even 2 yet, and Jang On leaves restaurant. Later, we then see that Jang On and Tae-moon come out of the bank, all giddy. Tae-moon says that he can't believe that they actually made it before bank hours were closed, and asks Jang On just what he intends to do with that money, now that he has it. Jang On says that he hasn't really thought about it yet, but he did see some apartments around the bus terminal earlier, so maybe he will settle down there after buying one. Tae-moon tells him that it's a bad idea, and that he should buy a house in a better and more urban area than there. Jang On also suggests that he might invest in some stocks as everyone is doing that, and Tae-moon laughs and asks him if he has a stock in mind. Jang On says that he has thought about both Han Electronics and Sam Electronics. Tae-moon then says that between those two, the clear choice is obviously Han Electronics, as they provide electric connection to the entire country, so they're very unlikely to go down in the market. Jang On says that he also thinks that Sam Electronics are good, as their new CEO seems fine, but Tae-moon says that Korean electronics are inferior to Japanese ones, so he doesn't see a point. Jang On then suddenly feels a shock of pain on his arms, and quickly tells Tae-moon that it is hurting where he got hit, and Tae-moon took him to the doctor who he usually goes to, someone who is not fazed by big scars like stabs or other stuff. We then see that they're at the hospital and the doctor has plastered both of Jang On's arms, which annoys him. The doctor tells Jang On that they're both minor fractures, and that they will easily heal quickly, like within a month or two, because the doctor checked his body, and it is a strong one. Jang On is still annoyed and asks if he has to wear this annoying double arm bag at all times, to which the doctor says that he shouldn't even think of using his arms now. Tae-moon then takes Jang On to a place where they can drink. Jang On then says that he is not sure if they should drink when he is in this condition. Tae-moon says that he shouldn't be worried. After all, Jang On is the one who taught them how to drink. They then keep taking shots and start getting more and more intoxicated by the drink. Tae-moon says that he knew that Jang On was strong, but he still didn't expect him to beat them up so easily. He even prepared weapons for him. Jang On asks if he means by firearms by weapons, and if so, how did he get them? Tae-moon says that he had prepared guns for him to fight with, and also said that they get shotguns because they're sold for hunting and they smuggle in guns from Russia. Jang On says that Tae-moon has found the perfect job for him, and Tae-moon says that army suited him better, and he also said that army suited Jang On better as well, so he doesn't know why he quit. Jang On then says that he quit because he went on mission with a few juniors. However, he only came back alone, failing to protect them, and after that, he feels like he shouldn't be called a soldier anymore, and he quit. He thought the souls of his juniors would haunt him, but they never did, maybe because they hate him. Tae-moon notices how heavy the mood had gotten and offered Jang On another drink, and so they kept drinking and drinking for hours, until they both were too intoxicated. However, they were saying that they were both fine and blaming the other one of being too high. Jang On then got up and said that he will be going now, and Tae-moon tried to stop him. However, Jang On insisted that he must go back to his home. Tae-moon then says that he doesn't even have a home and that the place where he lives is just a rundown inn, and offers Jang On to stay for longer, and says that he will rent out a room for him at a good hotel to spend the night in. However, Jang On insists that he must go home and sleep under his own roof. Jang On then leaves. We then see Jang On struggling to walk through the roads, and he eventually finds a stranded bench, where he lays down to rest. However, he eventually dozes off there. We then see a vehicle arrive near the bench, and a few men get outside from it. They see Jang-on, how he is sleeping on the bench in the middle of nowhere, and how he has both of his arm fractured, and they find it very shady. The guys then decide to take Jang-on to a place that would better suit a person like him, and then we see that they load up Jang-on to the vehicle, and the vehicle soon leaves for the destination of Daesan Welfare Organization. We then see that Du Jang-on is dreaming. In the dream, he is caught up in a dark forest with nothing else in sight. There he realizes that someone is calling him as the first sergeant. Jang-on then sees that the people looking for him are the 2 juniors from his division, who passed away during the mission in North Korea, and seeing them surprises Jang-on, as they usually don't come to see him in his dreams. Later, Jang-on sees that there is a gun laying around the ground, and he picks it up and puts it against his head, asking if that's what those guys want from him. As he is about to pull the trigger, he suddenly wakes up and sees a random guy telling him to get up and start the day. Jang-on can't understand what is happening, as he doesn't recognize that guy, nor does he recognize where he is and what he is wearing. Jang-on then asks the guy who he is and where are they and why are they there, to which the guy says that he asks too many questions, but he explains everything one by one, starting off by introducing himself as Lee Sun-jo, and then he tells Jang-on that the place they are at is the Daesan Welfare Facility, and the outfit they're wearing is the uniform of the inmates. Sun-jo says that there are other things out these for him to tell Jang-on. However, by this point, Jang-on had already gotten up from his bed and started walking away. Sun-jo goes after him and asks Sun-jo where he is going, to which Jang-on says that he is going home. Jang-on then goes near the gate and sees that the gate is locked from the inside. Jang-on gets annoyed by this, and Sun-jo comes forth and tells Jang-on that this place is known to imprison people by force, hence why it is locked. Jang-on is confused by this. However, at that very moment, an angry man comes towards them and asks them just what they are thinking of doing. Sun-jo quickly explains to Jang-on before he even asks that the person standing there is none other than their platoon leader and that everyone must respect him as such. Sun-jo also warns Jang-on that the platoon leader always carries a foul temper and irritating him has only led to more harm than good. Jang-on looks unimpressed by this info dump. However, his eyes quickly glaze over to the platoon leader's arm, which has a stash of keys. The platoon leader once again yells at them, asking what they are doing. Jang-on then goes forward and bluntly asks the platoon leader for the keys, as he wants to go outside. The platoon leader gets incredibly annoyed by the nonchalance of Du Jang-on and tries to teach him a lesson by throwing a sudden kick at him. However, this is child's play to Jang-on, and he easily manages to sidestep, which causes the platoon leader to kick the hard door and get hurt instead. Jang-on also loads up his punch to hit the platoon leader. However, he quickly realizes that his arms are still very much injured and remembers about what the doctor said about not using his arms a lot, as that will cause his arms to get damaged even more and make his recovery time even longer. And so, Jang-on decides against punching the guy. That is when a bunch of inmates run towards the scene to check up on the platoon leader, asking if he was okay, and the platoon leader commands them to break the already broken arms of Jang-on and send him to the ward as a punishment. The guys then take the order from the platoon leader and get ready to beat up Du Jang-on. The people then surround him, and Jang-on thinks that he can surely take on and beat everyone here at once. However, he doesn't want to risk his arms. According to Sun-jo, he learned that this is a place where people are forcefully imprisoned for whatever reason, which means that he can't escape easily, so he can't put his arms to risk and heal up before the escape. However, Jang-on was already cornered by now and his back was against the wall. Jang-on was contemplating how to fight all these guys. Should he try to fight them while simultaneously protecting his arms from getting hit? Is that what he should do? At that moment, we see that Sun-jo has stepped in for Jang-on, and he tells the platoon leader that Jang-on is a new guy who just came in today, and that he has no idea where he is and doesn't know the greatness possessed by the platoon leader. If he had known about that, he wouldn't even dare to misbehave with the man himself. The platoon leader is happy hearing his praises and understands the situation as explained by Sun-jo. Sun-jo then further goes on to request for a couple of days for him to educate Jang-on, so that he can learn about how this place works, and requests for everyone to let him off for now. Sun-jo then tells Jang-on to bow down and beg. He tells him to apologize for misbehaving and tell them that he won't repeat it again. Jang-on can't believe what he is being made to do. However, he doesn't want to risk a fight himself, so he decides to play along for the moment, and he bows down to apologize and vows to never repeat this again. The platoon leader then hits him on the back of his head and tells Jang-on to get in line for the roll call. Later on, we see that everyone has gathered for the roll call, and Jang-on is caressing his head which got hit, while Sun-jo praises him for doing well there and promises to tell him the working arounds of this place once they find a better place and time. We then see the platoon leader call for the rolls and everyone quickly follows it with discipline. After he is done counting, the platoon leader declares that there are 24 people under his charge including the new guy, Du Jang-on, before opening up the lock and letting the inmates follow his lead in line. Du Jang-on asks Sun-jo just where are they heading to, and Sun-jo tells him that they're going to grab breakfast, which immediately excites Jang-on because of his love for food. After a while, in the canteen, we see that Jang-on is wondering just how weird this place is. How this place is acting like it's a military camp with how they carry themselves, but it is not. How this place locks up people, but it is not even a prison. However, he feels the strangest thing out of them all is the food that they hand out for people to eat. We then see the awful plate of food that was given to Jang-on and others to eat. It looks like someone's leftover food was left to rot for a few weeks. Jang-on can't believe how awful the food is and how humans are supposed to eat it. Jang-on says to himself that he would definitely stab the one who prepared this food with a chopstick, however he can't, because they only provide fork spoons here. Lee Sun-jo then speaks up and tells Jang-on that he will explain the rest as was promised by him. Sun-jo says that the Daesan Welfare Facility is an organization that gives shelter, food and work to homeless people and helps them lead a good life. Upon hearing this, Jang-on is flabbergasted, as he tells Sun-jo that he isn't even homeless. Sun-jo then says that he is correct about that, and that most people who are taken in by this welfare facility aren't even homeless to begin with. Instead, the organization forcefully captures people and imprison them here to get them to work for them. Why? Because the government of the country provides funds to each and every one of those homeless people, and that is why the Daesan Welfare Facility imprison normal people, label them as homeless and eat up the funds from the government. Jang-on can't believe this and asks Sun-jo just what kind of people would imprison normal people for no reason other than for their own gain. That is when they notice that someone has entered the canteen room. As everyone focuses on that, Sun-jo tells Jang-on that the kind of people who run this kind of business are right there in front of them, the two sons of the president of the Daesan Welfare Facility. We then see the two sons, the eldest one and the vice president of the organization being Park Gwang and the second son, and the general manager of the organization, the huge man named Park Yom. Jang-on says that it looks like they're running an inspection of sorts, and Sun-jo replies by saying that it is an inspection and says that this is the opportunity for one to get themselves known to the people higher up. We then see Park Gwang walking up to Jang-on and Sun-jo, and Park Gwang asks how did Jang-on injure his arms and asks if he is new because he hasn't seen him before. Sun-jo replies instead KF Jang-on, telling Gwang that he is a new guy who joined recently. Gwang asks if he will be able to live in this welfare facility with all of his injuries, and Sun-jo says that he is taking special care of him and that Jang-on will fit right in. Gwang praises Sun-jo, saying that he had no idea such a nice person was living here. Sun-jo says that he might be good, but is he good enough to be an honor student? Gwang smirks hearing this and replies by asking if Sun-jo wants to be an honor student. Gwang then asks him for his name and tells him that he will surely keep an eye on him and his wish. Jang-on is annoyed by this, as he realized that Sun-jo was only playing nice because of his inner motives. Park Gwang then asks Jang-on about how he is doing and if the food given to him by the facility is any good. This question triggers Jang-on as he goes on to berate the food provided. Jang-on states that the food sucks and that humans won't be able to eat this kind of food. He says that the salted fish is more like rotten fish and says that he doesn't understand what kind of simmering was used to ruin the soup. He also adds that the vegetables are melting. Sun-jo is confused as he doesn't know why Jang-on snapped all of a sudden. He doesn't understand because he doesn't know Jang-on's passion for food, and that passion has made him incapable of being dishonest about it. The vice president hears this and grabs the food plate from Jang-on, before dumping it right on top of his head. Jang-on is pissed off by this, but the president goes on saying that ungrateful nobodies like Jang-on should be grateful that they're even getting to eat and not complain about the food. Gwang then throws the plate, which hits Jang-on's head, and he tells him to keep a hold of himself. Jang-on is enraged by this, his eyes going red from anger. Park Gwang then asks Sun-jo just what kind of work has he been doing on Jang-on for him to behave this way, and tells him to teach him things well from now on, before walking away. Sun-jo then checks on Jang-on, and says that he should clean up his head quickly, but Jang-on looks at him with pure unfiltered rage. The countdown begins. 29 more days until Du Jang-on's arms are fully healed. We then see that Du Jang-on is taking a shower, and while doing so, he gets annoyed by the water flow, deeming that to be uncomfortable as well. Later on, we see that Jang-on is cleaning up the ground with a broom alongside Sun Jo. Jang-on tells Sun Jo that his clothes aren't even dry yet, to which Sun Jo replies by saying that the clothes will eventually dry off while they're working. This annoys Jang-on, as he remembers what the vice president had done to him and gets mad about it. Sun Jo then says that Jang-on should be glad that the vice president dumped the food on him before lunchtime, as if he had done it afterwards, he wouldn't be able to clean himself up. Jang-on scoffs and says that wouldn't it have been just better if the vice president didn't do anything like that all? As that is wrong. Sun Jo says that it's true, but as he is supposed to add to it. A bald and overweight man comes between Sun Jo and Jang-on and says that he agrees with the newcomer. Sun Jo refers to the man as Your Excellency and asks him what he is doing there. This shocks Jang-on as he thinks that the old man must be some sort of president, as he was referred to as His Excellency. Right then, we see someone call His Excellency and tell him that he promised to go and wash the rags today, so why is he slacking off now? His Excellency remembers that and jogs off to go do his chore. Jang-on then asks Sun Jo why he referred to the fat old man as His Excellency, and if that old man is a president of what. Sun Jo says that the old man is not a president, but he thinks he is. Jang-on says that then the guy must be deluded for real if he thinks like that. Sun Jo explains that the man has gotten old and doesn't understand or remember things as well as he once used to. Sun Jo then tells Jang-on that the man was a Vietnam War veteran, and there he saw several atrocities and saw many friends losing their lives, and so he has been mentally unstable since. This shocks Jang-on, as he learns that the old man was once a soldier, just like him. Sun Jo then further adds that after returning from the war, His Excellency was sent to a mental rehab center, where he began to lose himself even more. There, he saw the bald president on the television, and since then, he has been afraid of the bald man and used to quiver whenever he saw him. However, as he aged himself, he lost hair and became bald, and is now unable to see himself in the mirror. Jang-on says that happened was unfortunate, but asks Sun Jo how he knows about all these things, to which Sun Jo replies that he got to learn about these things from the friend of His Excellency, who was also an inmate here. However, he passed away. Jang-on is a bit shocked hearing this, and asks if people really pass away while being here. Sun Jo replies by saying that lots of people pass away while being here, some due to health issues, some because of injuries, and some because of the harsh treatment from the staff and the platoon leaders. Sun Jo further adds that when the platoon leader threatened to send him to the ward after beating him up, he meant to finish him off, as when people are sent to the ward, they are left untreated and hence, they slowly end up passing away from accumulated damages. Jang-on is taken aback after learning this, and says that the people who do these kinds of things are really the worst people in the world. Just when he is talking about the worst people in the world, the platoon leader shows up and tells everyone to pay attention. The platoon leader announces that today is an inquiry day, and that everyone should do their chores quickly and gather up for the occasion at the sports ground. Jang-on is left confused from this, but Sun Jo tells him that because it is inquiry day, he will be able to see the actual worst people in Daesan Welfare Facility today. We then see that every inmate has gathered in the sports ground, where the director Park In-jae stands atop a podium to deliver a speech. The platoon leaders tell everyone to bow down to show respect to the director, and they do so. Jang-on understands that Park In-jae is the guy, and he is the supposed worst one among them all. Anyway, we later see the director starting his speech. The director starts off by saying that there are various kinds of trees in the world, and that each tree has and serves their own purpose. Some trees are used as pillars for palaces, some are used for fuel, but each of them have their own use, which is decided based upon its characteristics. He further continues, saying humans are no different and that they also have their own use and are used based on their characteristics. Even great people like St. Paul were used based on their characteristics. However, he states that the inmates don't have any characteristics, hence they are useless and hold no value in society. However, he, the director, is like Jesus Christ, in that he is a carpenter who will cut off the unnecessary parts about them and mold them to become a person that holds value in the society. After he is done with his speech, everyone is forced to clap, and Jang-on is understandably very unimpressed and says that the director is a deluded man who creates his own happiness with nonsense. We then see that Du Jang-on was also checking out his surroundings while he was pretending to listen to the director's speech. Jang On figured out that the Daesan welfare facility was made up in the middle of the mountain by cutting off that particular portion of the mountain. The welfare facility is surrounded by walls from every side, except for the side that faces the side of the mountain which was cut off. He notes that there is only one entrance gate in the whole facility, that being the main one, so it won't be easy in any way for him to escape as the guards will attack him if he tries to do so. That's why he needs to calm down and wait for both his arms to heal properly for him to even think about the escape. We then see that the director is going away after his speech and his son. Park Gwang praises him for the speech, and the director tells his sons that he trusts them only and that he loves them very dearly. We then see the two sons and the director get in a family embrace. Later, we see that Park Gwang has taken stage and is now going to announce something. Gwang tells everyone that he will now announce an honor student, and this lights up Lee Sun-jo, as he says that he told the vice president about his aspirations before, and the vice president also took his name, so there is a chance that it is him. Jang On asks Sun-jo just what this honor student thing really is, and Sun-jo informs him that an honor student is someone who has been well educated by the welfare facility, and someone who they will now deem as fit to go outside. 3. For people are usually selected every month to have this status. This surprises Jang On a little as he can't quite understand why they would leave one of the inmates suddenly. The vice president then announces that the honor student is from the 4th platoon, and this upsets Sun-jo, as he is from the 3rd platoon. The name of the honor student is then announced to be Kwak Do-young. We see that Kwak Do-young is a rather peculiar middle-aged man, and he can't believe his luck and is very happy. The vice president then invites Kwak Do-young to say a few words. Kwak Do-young is so happy that he doesn't have a whole lot to say. He thanks everyone and tells everyone that he will be heading home now. Sun-jo is jealous of this and says that Do-young is very lucky. However, Jang On is still skeptical about all of this taking place. Later on, we see that Kwak Do-young is in a room with Gwang, and he asks Gwang when can leave, to which Gwang says that they'll let him go after the doctor does a checkup because they can't let him go while being unhealthy. We then see a doctor arriving and he starts checking up on Do-young. After a while of normal checkup, the doctor brings out an injection, which scares Do-young, but the doctor tells him that it's for nutrients only. They then inject it into Do-young, and it quickly makes him unconscious. A few inmates then come and drag him away, while Gwang tells them to take off the uniform as it can be used on another inmate. The doctor then pokes fun at Gwang, saying he can't quite comprehend how Gwang is thinking about saving money in this moment, and then gives him a backhanded compliment for his good economical prowess. Gwang claps back at him, saying that someone who wasted a hospital his father-in-law opened, and someone who gambled all his money away would definitely think of Gwang as some economic expert. Gwang then changes moods and tells the doctor to stay in his limits when talking to him. Later on, we see that an almost naked Do-young is at an operation theater with the doctor from before. The doctor asks one of the nurses which parts to take out this time, to which the nurse tells him this time they need to take out the liver and kidney. The doctor then thinks of all the insults from Park Gwang and says that he is only doing it for the money. The nurse then tells the doctor that they should probably push another anesthesia into Do-young as he might wake up soon. The doctor tells him to not meddle in his business and tries to go ahead with his operation, but Do-young wakes up. The doctor lies to Do-young, telling him that they're doing an extensive checkup, but Do-young has none of it and punches the doctor square in the face before making a run for it. Do-young wonders what are they doing with him while running. However, he runs straight into Park Yom, who then takes him out with a straight punch to the nose. Yom then drags a near lifeless body of Do-young, as Do-young asks why they aren't letting him go home. We then see a conversation taking place between Jo Tae-moon and one of his subordinates in his faction. The subordinate tells Tae-moon that Park Gwon-ho was taken out alongside their men, and that they will no longer meddle in their business as their organization has basically been paralyzed. He further says that because of that, Congressman Choi has handed them over the permission to run a slot machine business in their area, and they can start it right away if they want to. Jo Tae-moon was eating, and he puts his bowl down and says that he still can't get over the hangover from drinking too much. The subordinate then says that the Congressman Choi somehow already knows everything about what happened. It's kind of fishy because all of this happened within a day, yet he knows everything. Tae-moon says that Congressman Choi is a very clever old man, and it is through his smart and agile mind and his ability to take big decisions on short notice that he got into the parliament. The subordinate then says that if everything goes well according to their plan, then they can get Congressman Choi to cut the ribbon on their new business as quickly as possible. We then see Taemoon picking up a dumpling to eat, and while he does that, he remembers how Jang-on asked him about what is good in that restaurant, and the driver told him that it was the dumpling and how that got Jang-on excited to eat the dumpling. Taemoon then tries the dumpling for himself and understands that the dumplings here are really quite good. Taemoon then goes on to ask his subordinate if Sergeant Du Jang-on made it back home safely or not. The scene then changes back to the Daesan welfare facility, where we see that Du Jang-on, Lee Sun-jo, and everyone else are working. They are making water spray bottles, and Jang-on finds this work to be very annoying to say the least. Sun-jo then says to Jang-on that he never really asked for his name, to which Jang-on tells Sun-jo his full name. Sun-jo then asks Jang-on what kind of work did he do before getting dragged into the welfare facility. Jang-on then thinks about all the covert and dangerous missions he was on while doing work for the military. He then goes on to answer by saying that he used to do all kinds of work that involved him using his body. Sun-jo then asks him that if it was strength-related work, then he must have injured his arms while working, to which Jang-on replies by saying that he can put it that way if he wants to. We then see the platoon leader yelling at Jang-on and Sun-jo for talking while working, and the platoon leader then asks Jang-on just what he had said to the vice president for him to lash out on him like that. As Jang-on is about to answer, the platoon leader tells him it's not needed and gives him an advice to work well and to not create any problems for the platoon. Jang-on stays silent, and this angers the platoon leader into hitting him on the back of the head and telling him to speak up. Jang-on then controls his anger and says yes. The platoon leader then moves over to the other side, and Sun-jo tells Jang-on that they aren't just scared of a problem starting in the platoon, they're just scared of getting into problem themselves. Jang-on then looks at the keys with the platoon leader and asks Sun-jo why they decide to lock them up from inside, when it is better to lock them up from outside. Sun-jo said that a long time ago, a man came for inspection and reported that it is bad if they lock the people up from the outside, it will make it a prison, and since then, they've made the platoon leaders handle the locking from the inside. Jang-on questions that why does the platoon leader lock it when he, himself, is one of the people getting locked up. Sun-jo says that these people never had a rank in their life, so them getting a rank and an armband representing that is too big of a deal for them. Jang-on understands this, and Sun-jo is still being jealous about the honor students. The scene then changes, and we see the doctor who conducted the operation on Kwak Do-young hand over a box to Park Yeom, the box most likely containing the liver and kidney of Do-young. The doctor hands it over and says that it wasn't really his fault that things got out of hand for a good second, and asks General Manager Yeom if he could tell the vice president that he did the work perfectly well and took all measures to make sure no problems occurred. Yeom then says, "Sir," to which the doctor replies, but Yeom follows it up with a kick to the gut of the doctor, which sends him to his knees and down to the ground from the pain. Yeom then tells the doctor to call the vice president sir, and tells him not to cover up mistakes and make up lies to protect himself. Yeom then drops an envelope full of money and tells the doctor to just admit it if he has made a mistake and try to improve on that. As Yeom walks away, the doctor, still in pain, picks up the envelope and says that it's not really nice that the Park family treats all people like they are animals. However, upon realizing how much money it had, the doctor became happy and said that he is glad that they're paying this animal well, referring to himself. We then see that Park Yeom goes to a rather quiet and dark place near the dock, where we see him hand over the box full of Do-young's organs to a shady person, who then gives him an even bigger stack of money for it. We then see Park Yeom go to his father, the director's office, and hand over all the cash to his old man. The director praises Yeom and tells him to get a good rest as it must be exhausting to do all the work he has done. We then see that the direct puts the stack of money inside his safe alongside many other envelopes full of ridiculous amounts of money. The scene changes, and we see that Jang-on is sleeping peacefully alongside other inmates, when they're unceremoniously woken up by the platoon leader. We then see Jang-on talking about how he has been in the Daesan welfare facility for 4 days, and has slowly managed to settle in as time went by. Maybe it is due to his stint in the military that allows him to adjust to tough situations rather quickly when compared to others. However, it's not all good as the food sucks and the place in general is hard to live in. However, he has been treating this like one of the many dangerous and secret missions he went to. However, when he thinks of it like that, it makes him even more mad because after all, when he was in the military, he had no fear and nothing to care about. He would just take on everything and everyone, regardless of how dangerous or life-threatening it might have been. But now, he has something that he is scared about, He is scared about not being able to see Sienna ever again. Jang-on wonders if she has forgotten about him. Meanwhile, in the bank, we see that Sienna is very gloomy, and she gets excited whenever someone comes to the bank, but gets disappointed when it's not the person she wants to see. We then see one of Sienna's co-workers telling her to go out and grab lunch while she takes care of the reception. Sienna then goes out for lunch, but she wonders why Du Jang-on hasn't come in such a while. She thinks of when he told her that he will be back soon with a lot of money, but hasn't come back since. She wonders if he is okay. She wonders if he is hurt. She wonders if he got into some sort of an accident. Back to the welfare facility, we see that the platoon leader hits Jang-on and tells him to work quicker, as he has been very slow, to which Jang-on says yes. However, the old mad guy from before, His Excellency, tells the platoon leader that he will work more from now on, and that he shouldn't behave badly with injured people. This angers the platoon leader as he grabs the man by the collar and asks him if he had gone mad. His Excellency replied by saying that he hasn't gone mad. He is the president of the country, and this makes the platoon leader punch him in the face. His Excellency falls down and cries from getting hit, and this was the final straw for Du Jang-on. Sienna was wondering if he got into an accident. Well, he hadn't, but now he will. Du Jang-on cusses and calls out the platoon leader. Things are about to get broken. Jang-on directly calls out the platoon leader, which ends up shocking the platoon leader and everyone present in the room. The platoon leader, pissed off, asks Jang-on if he has gone crazy. The lackeys of the platoon leader also get mad and look to get back at Jang-on. Understanding that the numbers are against him, Jang-on decides to get rid of the platoon leader before his two lackeys can make a move. So, when the platoon leader comes forward to attack Jang-on, he simply jumps up in the air to deliver a flying roundhouse kick to the platoon leader. The sheer force of the kick knocks out the platoon leader in the spot and puts everyone on notice. Jang-on felt more comfortable now, as the prospect of fighting 3 guys at once while having broken arms is tough. However, he feels more comfortable in taking on the 2 lackeys who are now coming his way. Their dedication to the platoon leader impressed Jang-on, as the first guy came ahead and threw a straight punch at Jang-on. However, Jang-on easily dodges it and also dodges the subsequent book and uppercut attempts from the guy. Jang-on then makes his way behind the guy and kicks him in the back of the leg. This disbalances the guy and allows Jang-on to execute a proper knee strike to the guy's face. After knocking him out cold, Jang-on turns his attention to the second guy, who he simply goes forward and punts his head like it was a football, taking him out for good as well. As he pulled it off, everyone in the room was left stunned. Jang-on himself got worried about the matter, as he wondered how he could clean up the mess he made, because it would be troublesome if an employee were to come and see this. Just then, Lee Sun-jo starts chanting Du Jang-on as a way to show support for him. His Excellency and the rest of the inmates follow suit and starts chanting Jang-on's name loudly. Jang-on asked for them to be stopped, as he didn't want the staff of the welfare facility to show up and see this. And his fear comes into fruition, as a member of the staff team enters the room to check on what happened. The guy was annoyed until he noticed the fallen body of the platoon leader. This pissed off the staff guy, who brings out his stick and fronts Jang-on. He repeatedly asks Jang-on what he should do. Jang-on knew that he only really had 2 options here. The first was to kick his stick away and then knee him in the gut. After doing so, the guy will be subdued and he will be allowed to escape the room as a result. However, he will eventually get stuck at the main gate, which is fully locked. This would also allow all the other staff members and guards to come searching for him. They won't be holding back and will try their best to stop him. Not to mention the fact that they'll be extra angry when they learn that Jang-on attacked one of their guys. Jang-on doesn't particularly fear them though, as he is certain that he will be able to take on a couple of them with his leg alone. However, what he fears is getting hurt in the arm during the fight. He can't really afford to re-aggravate the injuries anymore, so even a small blow will prove to be brutal. So that option is out of the door, which is why Jang-on decides to go with the second option. He bows down in front of the staff member and apologizes for what he did. He decides to take a back step and not complicate the matter any further. However, just then, the Vice President Park Gwang enters the room with brother Park Yom. The vice president was shocked to see that Jang On did this. Meanwhile, Jang On was visibly shaken by the arrival of the vice president, as things just got more complicated than he wished for it to. The vice president expressed his amazement as he talked about how crazy it is for a guy who has both of his arms broken to take down 3 guys by himself. He mentions how he thought that Jang On was a pushover who couldn't stand for himself and only fools around about food. However, as it turns out, Jang On is more than that. So, Park Gwang asks Jang On for his name, to which he reveals his full name. Park Gwang then asks Jang On just what he was thinking while doing such a dangerous thing. Jang On was getting ready to answer when the vice president stopped him. He states that it doesn't matter what he thought about, but the problem is that he thought about something in the first place. This confuses Jang On, so the vice president goes on about how he makes the rule that needs to be followed. So, he gave the platoon leaders the power to control all the platoon members. Because Park Gwang made the rule, everyone just needs to stop thinking and follow it. He also mentions how he can still see thought behind Jang On's eyes. So, as a punishment, the vice president Park Gwang orders for Jang On to be sent to the punishment room for 3 straight days. This stuns Lee Sun-jo, who can't believe how Jang On is going to survive that. Jang On himself didn't know what it was. He wondered if it was like a top-tier prison cell, in which case it won't be very hard for him to survive. Park Gwang assures Jang On that he won't be having any thoughts behind his eyes after he comes back from the punishment room. And this is how Jang On was taken to the punishment room, a room that was a lot different from his expectations. As they stood face to face with each other, the vice president told Jang On that he had 3 days to reflect on his actions and improve as a person. Jang On just listens to him and doesn't say anything in reply as Park Gwang walks away. This makes Park Yom take action. He approaches Jang On and punches him straight in the face for not answering the vice president. Jang On quickly responds by saying yes, but Park Yom knees him in the gut for just answering once. He then kicks Jang On the back and tells him to answer Park Gwang loudly and clearly from now on. Park Gwang watches this unfold, as this was exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to make an example out of Jang On before sending him to the punishment room. And as seen by everyone's reaction, he succeeded in doing so. Following this, a bloodied Do Jang On gets back up and gets escorted out of the room by the staff member. His Excellency and Lee Sun-jo watched and worried about Jang On. Sun-jo in particular didn't know how Jang On would survive what was coming his way, but Jang On looked back at him and smiled. This shocks Sun-jo, as he wondered how messed up someone would be to smile in such a situation. He attributes it to the constant blows to the head that he took for him to act crazy all of a sudden. Later, we see Jang On arriving near the punishment room along with the staffer. While they walked, Jang On's mind was still stuck on the punch he had received from Park Yom. He wiped the blood off his nose, as he thought about just how strong Park Yom's fists were. However, he is sure that his own fists are even stronger than his. So Jang On feels excited about eventually fighting Park Yom seriously once his fists are healed. As he is lost in his thoughts, the staffer hits Jang On the head with a stick and tells him to move quicker. Jang On agrees, but he feels annoyed and vows to take revenge on the staffer as well. Meanwhile, inside the room, the platoon leader was still down and out. A strong slap on the face from Park Yom is enough to wake him up. Although he didn't know what happened, Park Yom tells him that he has visitors to attend to. He also informs the rest of the inmates that their break time is over and tells them to get back to work. Following this, the Park brothers take the platoon leader to a secluded area to talk. There, the vice president told the platoon leader that he probably isn't a good enough fit to be a platoon leader. The platoon leader quickly goes defensive and says that he is good enough for the role. The vice president doesn't agree with that, as he points out how he, who got knocked out by a guy who can't even use his arms, is simply too weak to be a platoon leader. So, he was preparing to take his leadership armband off. The platoon leader felt anxious, as he thought about how it is not about him being weak. Rather, it is about Jang On being just too damn strong. His legs were just too strong and fast for anyone to handle it. However, he cannot explicitly state this to the vice president in fears of being stripped of his post. So, the platoon leader makes up a lie and tells them that he was attacked from behind, which is why he was defeated. This interested Park Gwang, so he asks the platoon leader if he will be able to defeat Jang-on in a real fight. The platoon leader emphatically says yes. So, Park Gwang tells the platoon leader to just go ahead and beat up Du Jang-on right now. The platoon leader is taken aback by this, as he asks if this is necessary for him. The vice president thinks he needs to do it in order to save face, because the platoon won't just respect a guy who got knocked out in front of them. This leaves the guy a nervous wreck. Park Gwang then informs him about Jang-on being sent to the punishment room for 3 days. He also adds that the fight between Jang-on and the platoon leader will be conducted after Jang-on is out of the punishment room. The platoon leader understands what the vice president was implying. Basically, he was getting a shot at Jang-on after he lost his mind. This was purposefully set up by Park Gwang so that the platoon leader could beat a weakened Jang-on and get his heat back. Park Gwang then asks the platoon leader if he can do it, to which he says yes. Meanwhile, Jang-on arrives at the basement layer of the Daesan welfare facility. There, he is taken to where the punishment rooms are located. The punishment rooms are solitary confinement just as Jang-on had expected, but he was wondering why such a place was inside the basement. Eventually, they stop near a room, and the staffer opens up the gate. In a shocking turn, it turns out that the rooms were not actually rooms but tiny lockers. Gobsmacked, Jang-on wonders why there were such lockers for what was essentially supposed to be torture chamber. He wonders if these people do these things because they're ordered to, and if they have forgotten that they are doing this to innocent people for no reason. The staffer then tells Jang-on to get inside quickly, and pokes at his plaster with his stick. He threatens to break Jang-on's arm again if he stalls more time. Without any choice, Jang-on obliges and barely fits his decently large frame inside the tiny locker. The staffer wastes no time and locks in the door and leaves. Jang-on is left alone in a very uncomfortable situation. Inside the locker, Jang-on thinks about how he had been through all sorts of training in the military to endure any kind of torture performed by the enemy when captured. Chamber torture was one of the things he was trained for. In this kind of torture, a person is left in a position where they can't sit, nor lay down. Moreover, they can't eat, drink water, or take a piss either. The only thing they can do is be in a motionless and uncomfortable state, where nothing can be done. This sort of torture is done to break down the enemy on both a mental and physical level. So, it makes Jang-on very angry that these people have been performing it on normal people. It puts into perspective how notorious and crazy these people are. But their insanity aside, the thing that Jang-on needs to focus on now is that he must live in such a horrible condition for the next 3 days straight. Just like that, a grueling day goes by for Du Jang-on inside the tiny locker. Jang-on himself is unaware of how much time has passed by. He wonders if it has already been a day. He was suffering from being made to stand in the cramped locker. He didn't even know if he was able to sleep in that place, or was he just closing his eyes for a few seconds. All he knew was that it was unbearable. Add on top of that the hunger and his genuine love for good. It was making Jang-on go crazy. Meanwhile, the scene changes to the 3rd platoon room, where the platoon leader was beating up Lee Sun-jo viciously. The platoon leader was mad at him for cheering on Du Jang-on after Du Jang-on rebelled. Lee Sun-jo tries to explain himself, but he is kicked in the shin before he can do so. The platoon leader then declares everyone to be communists, as they unionized against him and started a rebellion against him. So, to make an example, he grabs Sun-jo by the head and hits him with a knee strike to the face. His Excellency steps forward to protect Sun-jo and to tell him to calm down. However, the platoon leader attacks him as well, and his lackeys join in to rain down stomps on Sun-jo and his Excellency, calling them Frexia for being traitorous rebels. The scene then changes to where President Park packs up tons of money inside Nike shoe boxes. He says these bribes are for the government employees, and all of the boxes hold the same amount of money, so the Park brothers should give it to everyone that helped them. Park Gwang asks Park Yom to join him for the distribution work, and Park Yom agrees. Following this, Park Gwang noticed a bigger carton box that was filled with money, and asked his father what it was for. President Park says it is a special box for someone who is not only a government worker, but also a vital cog in the system that runs the country. Following this, the 2 brothers drive off to their destination at high speed while playing music. While on the road, Park Yom asks Park Gwang exactly how do these people who they are bribing help them. Park Gwang then starts explaining, beginning with the Daesan welfare community worker, who helps them gather government funding. They give him the bribe and he really appreciates the gift, saying that it makes him want to be more loyal to them from now on. Following this, they head elsewhere to give the bribe to a Daesan police officer. The police officer really liked the pair of shoes he got from them, and Park Gwang told him that he needs them because he runs around the country for the well-being of the citizens. Following this, they go to the Daesan district prosecutor and give him the bribe. They pay these guys because they suppress any attempts of a whistleblower showing up and help them keep their image of a welfare facility and hide their true motives. The district prosecutor doesn't really like the bribe though, saying that he would have preferred apples over pears, implying that he needs more. Park Gwang respectfully tells him that he will bring him apples when it is the season for apples. Following this, the guy leaves, and the vice president is left annoyed by his behavior. He thinks that these people should just be grateful and take the bribe instead of demanding more. Afterwards, Park Gwang gives Park Yom a bundle of cash for coming along. Park Yom is shocked and asks if Park Gwang took some money from the bribe amount. Park Gwang admits that he did, and that he has done this in the past too. He thinks he should be rewarding themselves for doing all the hard work too, which is why he decided to bring along Park Yom with him, because brothers should share good things among themselves. Park Gwang then suggests that the brothers head to a restaurant to have some meat together to treat themselves. At the restaurant, Park Gwang prepares a special meatball for his brother and feeds him. He enjoys seeing his brother eat so well. As they enjoy themselves, Park Yom brings up the matter about the platoon leader and Do Jang-on. He asks Park Gwang if he is serious about making the two fight each other. Park Gwang asks Park Yom if he is worried about this, even after knowing that Jang-on will be coming out after 3 days in the punishment room. Park Yom says he does get that, but there is always a possibility because Jang-on did beat up 3 guys by himself without even using his arms. So there is always a maybe. Park Gwang gets that, and asks Park Yom if they can use Jang-on to their advantage if he really is that strong. Park Yom isn't so sure about this as Jang-on did go against the platoon leader and beat him up. So, the chances of him listening to them is very low to say the least. Park Gwang understands that, and says that he knows that the chances are low at the moment. However, he is certain that, after the 3 days in the punishment room, Jang-on will be vulnerable and he will be able to use him any way he wants to. Meanwhile, we see that 2 whole days had passed since Do Jang-on had entered the punishment room. He was looking miserable. 2 days without eating or sleeping was rough as expected. He was mouthing out the name of the foods he wanted to eat. But, as time passed on, he felt like he was losing the hope of living on. Just then, he remembers his purpose for carrying on. He remembers Song Seon-ah. He thinks about how he has never taken her out to eat together. So, when he gets out of here, he wants to take her out and confess his feelings to her. He imagines a date with Seon-ah, where he asks her out and takes her out for food. Seon-ah wasn't sure about what she wanted to eat, but Jang-on tells her that it is fine. He will eat anything as long as she is with him. Just like that, 3 days go by, and the locker door is opened. Jang-on fell down from the locker, as Park Gwang stood there, pleased. Park Gwang looked Jang-on in the soulless eyes of his, and states that this is the kind of eyes that he wanted to see. Following this, the staffer comes around, and orders Lee Sun-jo and His Excellency to carry Jang-on out of the room. They do so, as they tell Jang-on how he looks in a rough state. Jang-on also asks them about the wounds on their faces, to which Sun-jo says that they got beat up for siding with Jang-on during the fight. As he was being carried back, Jang-on asked where they were going and that he was hungry, but little did he know that he wasn't going to get fed. Instead, he was being taken to fight the platoon leader in front of everyone. Jang-on understands that they were going to make him fight. The platoon leader seemed ready, as he recalled what the vice president said about beating up Jang-on and saving face. Seeing Jang-on's current state, he understood that this was going to be an easy fight thanks to the assistance from Park Gwang. The vice president found this to be quite amusing, as he compares the scenario to watching gladiator duels. But Park Yom corrects him in that it is more like an execution than a duel judging off of Jang-on's state. The vice president orders the staffer to start the fight. The staffer tells both of them to get ready. Jang On sighs as he wants to rest. Meanwhile, the platoon leader looked intense, as he looked around and saw everyone waiting. The staffer then calls for the fight to begin, and the platoon leader immediately charges at Jang On. The story goes to a flashback from a day earlier. There, we see the platoon leader talking to his lackeys about the fight with Jang On. The lackeys assured him that it was going to be easy, as Jang On will be coming out of the punishment room after serving 3 days. Despite this, the platoon leader was worried, as he pointed out how Jang On crushed the 3 of them with no arms. The lackeys got his point, and the platoon leader was looking for a sure-shot way of winning the fight. This is when one of the lackeys suggests that the platoon leader attacks his broken arms. By doing that, Jang On will be in extreme pain, and it will allow the platoon leader to take an easy victory. The platoon leader thinks that is a cheap way of winning, but it is a way of winning for sure, so he plans on going through with it anyway. Back to real time, the platoon leader was charging at Jang On to hurt his arms. Jang On was okay with losing the fight, as that way things would end quickly. However, seeing how the platoon leader was coming at him, he knew that he had to defend his arm. So when the platoon leader kicks him in the arm, Jang On leans back like he was Neo from Matrix and dodges the blow. He immediately follows it up with a side push kick to create some distance. Park Yom was shocked, as he wondered if Jang On was trained in martial arts, while Park Gwang was amused. The platoon leader was shocked because he didn't expect Jang On to be this strong after coming out of the punishment room. Jang On wasn't interested in the fight, but when he looked back at Sun Jo and His Excellency's faces, it triggered a reaction within him. Angered, he hits the platoon leader with a roundhouse kick to the head, knocking him out for good. This baffles everyone, because no one expected such a one-sided finish to the fight. After he was done, Jang On approached the Vice President Park Gwang and asked him if he was satisfied now. Park Gwang calls Jang On a funny guy before saying that he is indeed satisfied. Suddenly, Jang On falls down on the ground. Everyone gets worried, wondering what happened to him. But it turns out that he just fell asleep on the spot. Park Gwang finds Jang On to be fascinating and says that he has a great plan in mind for him. Sometime later, Jang On wakes up in the platoon room and is greeted by Lee Sun Jo. Jang On asks him what happened, to which Sun Jo tells him that he had fallen asleep. So Sun Jo carried him here and had to skip work. This is when Jang On notices that he has a band around his arm and is confused. His confusion is turned into utter shock when Lee Sun Jo reveals that Jang On has been named the new leader of the 3rd Platoon by Park Gwang. Following on, we see the Vice President Park Gwang was preparing tea for his younger brother Park Yom. He uses the typical method of 2 spoons of sugar, milk and strength to make it, and gives it to Park Yom. As they start drinking it, Park Yom questions Park Gwang's reasoning for making the decision. Park Gwang says it is normal and asks if he should have used a method different to 2 for the tea because to him it seems fine. Park Yom clarifies that it is not about that, and that he is actually asking about Park Gwang's decision to make Du Jang on the new platoon leader. Park Gwang says that he did so because the former platoon leader was much weaker than anticipated. Moreover, Du Jang On is very strong, so he thinks that he can use Jang On when the time is right. However, Park Yom isn't so sure about that because judging from how Du Jang On fought against the platoon leader, it is safe to assume that he is a highly trained individual. As such, it will be hard for them to keep him repressed once his injuries heal. He will definitely try to fight back. Park Gwang isn't worried about that though, as he asks his younger brother why he thinks they can control an entire platoon with just 1 member from their staff team. Because theoretically, a group of 20 to 30 men can easily beat down 1 staffer and move out with any problems. Yet they don't rebel. Why is that? Park Yom says that it comes down to the fact that they won't be able to go much further, because the other staff will quickly be alerted and they won't be able to get past the barricades and walls. So they don't want to risk getting beaten up. Park Gwang says that it is a part of the reason why, but the main reason is something else altogether. They don't want to endure the torture and trauma that they've gone through here. He puts forward an example of how elephants are trained in Southeast Asia. Baby elephants are tied up and are constantly beaten with iron hooks by human beings. This instills a sense of fear within the elephant from a young age. So, when the elephant becomes an adult and capable of trampling over the humans, it is still in fear of getting beat. Same is the case with Du Jang-on. A sense of fear exists within him, which will cause him to not do anything out of order. And this is just the beginning of his journey in this place, so as the time goes by, he will settle in and consider this place to be his home, just like others. Meanwhile, we see Jang-on procrastinating at his bed. When the two lackeys of the former platoon leader come forward and apologize to Jang-on for what they did in the past to him, Jang-on sighs in irritation, as he understands that after the former platoon leader was sent to the medical room after the fight. So, his lackeys are here to beg for their lives. Annoyed, Jang-on tells them that he can't forgive them no matter what they do. That is because he has nothing to forgive them for. He hasn't been around for much time, so there isn't any problem for his side. However, the ones they should be apologizing to instead are all the other people in the platoon. This is when we see that everyone in the platoon had gathered together to enact revenge on the two lackeys. Jang-on instructs the guys to solve their matter among themselves, as he goes back to lying down. The guys then start their procedure, as the lackeys beg for Jang-on to help. Jang-on turns a blind eye and opts to rest. Jang-on never felt so much happiness in being able to lay down, but there he was. However, what really bothered him now was the fact that he was the platoon leader. He wonders why the Park brothers chose him to be the platoon leader. It seemed like they had hosted that fight right after him getting out to help the former platoon leader save face. But the guy ended up losing and has been hospitalized for now. He understands the decision to remove him, as the guy was comprehensively beaten by Jang-on twice, and is probably of no use to the Park brothers. But he wonders why they chose him to be the new platoon leader. It occurs to him that they might have done so to tempt him into joining up with them, thinking they can corrupt him with power like they did with others. However, Jang-on is not like that. He finds this funny, and wonders if the Park brothers are idiots, who think no one is as smart as them because the environment they live in is rotten. Or they are unaware of the fact that not all people are as selfish as them. Either way, Jang-on decides to play along with their game for the time being to see things. Meanwhile, somewhere else, we see the launch of the Daesan Hotel Casino and Diner Lounge. The place is grand, and the opening ceremony ribbon is cut by none other than Senator Choi. This was a business venture of Jo Tae-moon, and the senator congratulates him for making it. Jo Tae-moon tells the senator that it is all due to him that he has been able to make it so far. However, in reality, he condemned the guy for going back and forth between his side and Park Kwon-ho's side, and knows that he would have made it sooner if not for him. This is when the senator is informed that he needs to head to his next appointment, so the senator swiftly takes his lead. Jo Tae-moon shows him the utmost respect. After he leaves, Jo Tae-moon shares his frustrations with his assistant. Following on, Jo Tae-moon suggests that the crew goes to have some food together. He suggests going to the downtown place known for its great dumplings. But this time, he will let anyone order anything. Fast forward to the outing and everyone was eating a lot, and they were drunk senseless. Tae-moon tells them that they had sure gone far for this party, but he was enjoying it himself. His assistant pours him another drink, and Tae-moon accepts it. However, there was a sense of melancholy somewhere for Tae-moon. His assistant notices this and asks Tae-moon what is wrong. After all, he was having a success party, and he was going to make back a lot of money. However, Tae-moon explains that this has to do with him not enjoying these things anymore. When he first began in the business, there was a set rule, and he enjoyed it. The rule had it so that only the ones on top can move forward, and as needed, Tae-moon himself climbed up the ladder like that. However, now that he has accomplished something, he knows that he has become a target himself, and he does not like that part of it at all because he needs to hold back. Business in general has dirty rules. After the party, Tae-moon sees everyone off. He then gets inside his own car. On the way, Tae-moon asks to be dropped off despite being drunk. He felt a need to have a walk, and as his house was nearby, he wanted to take a walk. Once outside, Tae-moon was walking when he runs into Park Kwon-ho and his squad, who were there. Tae-moon mocks them, asking if other members were in the hospital. Park Kwon-ho was pissed, but he only wanted to ask one question. Tae-moon makes it clear that he will only answer them if they beat him in a fight. Angered, Guan-ho orders his men to attack Tae-moon. But Tae-moon was not going to back down either. He gears up and charges at them, feeling sober after the little walk he had. As the thugs charge at him, Tae-moon doesn't back down. One of the thugs swings a stick to attack Tae-moon, but Tae-moon manages to slip under the attack and feels relieved. Another one tried to take advantage of his momentary distraction. He calls Tae-moon cocky and goes for the attack. Tae-moon clarifies that he is not cocky. He is just confident about his own abilities, and he backs up his words by hitting a straight short arm punch to the guy's face, which breaks his nose and knocks him out. Tae-moon wastes no time and immediately goes after the next guy, taking him out with a similar punch. Tae-moon gets ready to talk some trash with Park Guan-ho, mocking him about his confident talk earlier. But as he is about to hurl more insults, one of the thugs tries to attack Tae-moon from the back. However, Tae-moon spots him before it is too late and quickly manages to create an angle and take the guy out with a solid punch. Tae-moon says that the guy was quite rude for interrupting his conversation earlier and tries to start off from where he left. However, the big guy from earlier grabs Tae-moon by the throat and physically lifts him up in the air. The guy tells Tae-moon to continue with his nonsense blabbering, as these words that he will say might as well be the last words he ever speaks. Tae-moon struggles, and this brings some hope into Park Guan-ho's camp. However, the hope is shattered when Tae-mon goes low and attacks the big guy in his family jewels. Tae-moon then tells the big guy that he should let him speak if he wants him to talk, before finishing him off with a strong punch. This stuns all the other thugs, who can't believe the big guy got wiped out. Tae-moon proceeds to pick up a stick, as he declares that he has done enough warming up and that it was now time for some serious fighting. But before things could break down, Park Guan-ho instructs his men to stop and tells Tae-moon that they should talk it out. Tae-moon finds this quite amusing but agrees to have a normal talk with Park Guan-ho. During their talk, Tae-moon asks Guan-ho why exactly he was after him. Is he mad about Tae-moon coming to his place and basically stealing the business from him? Guan-ho clarifies that it is not about that, as getting revenge won't be doing him any favors in the business. Instead, he is there to ask a question. The question was about Du Jang-on, the guy who ambushed them. He is sure that the guy had no reason to voluntarily attack them for no reason. Considering everything, he made sure that it was orchestrated by Tae-moon. And there is no point in hiding it anymore, as Tae-moon already has the business in hand. This is when Tae-moon hesitantly adds that he was behind the ambush. However, he asked Guan-ho why they were looking for him, and if they wanted revenge on him. Anyway, it is not like Tae-moon will just reveal information for no reason. As he mentioned earlier, he will only answer the questions if they defeat him, which they did not. Guan-ho wanted to know about Jang-on's whereabouts, as he couldn't find him despite searching hard. Tae-moon says that he doesn't know either. After the ambush, they had a drink and Jang-on just disappeared after that. This makes him wonder what is up with Jang-on, as his arms were messed up too. Tae-moon then takes his leave, as he was a sweaty mess. However, he seemingly liked the feeling of it for some reason. Afterwards, at Guan-ho's cafe, the thugs apologize to Guan-ho for failing. Guan-ho says that he didn't even have high hopes from them. Even if they were at the peak of their powers, they would still fail against Tae-moon. This is when a member of the squad, Sang Cheol, returns from Special Forces training. He is shocked to see what had happened to the place and is surprised to learn the cause of it. He quickly apologizes for what happened while he was away doing some training. Guan-ho assured him that it was not his fault and that the people who were present are at fault now. Sang Cheol is still pissed off, as he suggests going over to Tae-moon and teaching him a lesson for what he did. But Guan-ho doesn't want that. Instead, he wants to know more about Du Jang-on. Sang Cheol sees no point in that, as Du Jang-on was surely hired by Tae-moon, so they should save the effort and just hit Tae-moon. This is when Guan-ho clarifies that he wants to get a hold of Jang-on because he humiliated Guan-ho. This is a personal matter which hurts his ego, and that matters a lot in this situation. Guan-ho gives over the duty of finding him to Sang Cheol and tells him to go to the doctor where Tae-moon takes his allies to. This is because Jang On was hurt, so he must have been taken to that place. So, to follow the orders, Sang Cheol goes over to the doctor and says he is in pain. He tells the doctor that his heart is hurting because his boss was told many things by a random person. After drawing in the doctor, Sang Cheol pushes and pins him down. Sang Cheol then asks for information about Du Jang On. The doctor quickly reveals everything he knows about Jang On, which is just his full name. When asked about other things such as locations, the doctor reveals that he doesn't know anything about Du Jang On, because he doesn't ask questions to people who are brought in by Tae-moon. Following this, Sang Cheol informs Park Gwon-ho that he only managed to learn the full name of Du Jang On. Park Gwon-ho then informs Sang Cheol that he wants Sang Cheol to go somewhere else, that being the bar that Jo Tae-moon regularly visits. He has done some investigation to learn that Du Jang On went there too. So, Sang Cheol goes to the bar and orders soju and udon. Sang Cheol then asks one of the workers there if he had seen a guy who was wearing plasters on both arms. The guy says he did see someone like that, so Sang Cheol offers him some money to speak up. The guy takes the money and reveals that the guy, Jang On, got very drunk a few days back with Tae-moon and decided to leave alone. The guy seemingly came from a different area. He mentioned about leaving on a bus or something. But around that time, the buses had stopped operating, so he couldn't have made it out on a bus. This is when a bunch of guys call out to Sang Cheol and ask him what he was doing in the bar. Sang Cheol recognizes these guys to be members of Jo Tae-moon's gang. Understanding where the situation was headed, Sang Cheol told the worker to go hide somewhere, and that they'll talk again later. As the guys come towards him, Sang Cheol reveals that he is just having some soju and udon. However, the Tae-moon gang members weren't pleased, as it was their territory. Sang Cheol claps back, saying it is not like he barged in their territory forcefully and asked for udon, so there is no reason for them to act so hostile. His tone angers the other guy, who says that he doesn't exactly like his aggressiveness. It doesn't come out well considering Sang Cheol's gang was destroyed by Jo Tae-moon and co. This was the final straw for Sang Cheol, who ended up throwing the hot udon at the guy's face. As the guy is blinded, Sang Cheol takes the glass bottle of soju and smashes it on the guy's head, knocking him down. Sang Cheol then stood with an angry look before asking everyone if they wanted to fight him as well. As a sense of hesitation takes over within the Tae-moon guys, Sang Cheol goes forward and knees one of the other guys in the face. This scares the remaining guy, but he still musters up the courage to charge at Sang Cheol. However, Sang Cheol charges at him as well and punches him straight in the face, knocking his lights out. Following this, all three guys got up and retreated. Annoyed, Sang Cheol then asked the worker to continue the conversation they were having. The guy continues on about how it is unlikely for him to get a bus that night, as the services were close. So, logic says that he must have spent the night sleeping on the streets. Sang Cheol gets that, and thinks that Jang On must have then taken the bus that came in the morning and left Daesan. However, the guy says that there is a chance that Jang On is still in Daesan. After all, there is an organization called the Daesan Welfare Facility, which takes in homeless people and gives them a place to stay. It is said that they take in people for as much as walking alone in the streets at night. Sang Cheol takes in all of the information and thinks about giving this place a try to see if Jang On is in there. Meanwhile, at the Daesan Welfare Facility, we see the inmates having lunch during break time. However, as expected, Du Jang On didn't seem like he was into the food. Lee Sun-jo sees this and asks Jang On what was wrong. Jang On tells him that he is worried that eating such bad-tasting and weak food will not help him in healing his broken arms quickly. This is when His Excellency speaks up and says that he can bring Jang On herbal medicines to help him heal his arms quicker. Jang On was taken aback as he didn't know that they could get herbal medicine in this place. However, Sun-jo quickly tells him to not question His Excellency, as he is not mentally stable. So he should just play along. This is when the Vice President, Park Gwang, and his brother Park Yeom make their way inside the canteen. The two brothers make their way over towards where Jang On was sitting. Park Gwang points out how it was the new leader who was eating there. Jang On greeted the vice chairman, In reply, the vice chairman asks Jang on how is the food in this place now that he is around for long enough to judge properly. Jang On was itching to lay it out to him and tell him how the food was horrible, but Sun Jo was praying that he doesn't snap. Eventually, Jang On stops himself and says that the food is really good. Park Gwang is pleased by his answer, and shortly after, takes his leave. Sun Jo was glad that Jang On didn't do anything foolish. Meanwhile, Park Gwang pointed out to Park Yom that this is how fear is instilled in humans to change their views. However, Park Yom seemed unconvinced, as he was scanning Jang On and Co. to see what they were up to. His Excellency was telling Jang On how he is going to bring herbal medicine to help heal Jang On's arms. Whereas, Park Gwang was blabbering about how he will control Du Jang On and have him in the palm of his hand. The scene then shifts to the ground of the Daesan welfare facility, where His Excellency was digging up a hole near the wall. This annoyed Lee Sun-jo, who didn't understand why he was digging a hole near the wall when he was supposed to bring them herbal medicine. He also questioned why Du Jang On came along with them here. Jang On says that he is just playing along with it, just as Sun-jo had suggested. Moreover, he was done eating, and there wasn't anything else he had to do during the lunch break, so he decided to come along. Jang On was reminded of his past in the military, where he and his comrades would often do things that had no meaning just for the sake of it. They would do it and enjoy themselves. Looking back at it, Jang On realizes that those inconsequential moments were the only time he could experience what it felt like being a normal human being. Following this, His Excellency takes out something from there and says that these are the medicines. He opens his hands to reveal that he had a bunch of little mice on his hand. This disgusted Lee Sun-jo, who couldn't believe it. But His Excellency argued that this was the perfect medicine for Jang On. These mice are living on their own without their parents. They're also newborns, so eating them won't be an issue. More importantly, Jang On requires to eat nutritious and protein-heavy food if he is to heal his arms. While Sun-jo is appalled, Jang On is left shocked. After all, this was a legit method. He wonders if His Excellency had learned about this during his time in Vietnam, or he could have possibly picked it up from back when he was at the Samcheong Re-Education Center. Either way, what His Excellency was saying was the truth. So, Jang On says that he is right. Sun-jo thinks Jang On agreed with him, and he continued on about how His Excellency is going overboard. But turns out, Jang On agreed with His Excellency, as he took the mice and ate them alive. As blood spilled from his mouth, Lee Sun-jo was shocked. But Jang On knew this was necessary. He needs to remember that he is just a normal human being while he is in this place. However, if he wants to survive being in such a cruel environment, he needs to become even more merciless. The story then shifts to the staff room inside the Daesan welfare facility. There, we can see that one of the staffers is about to take his leave. The other staffers weren't exactly stoked though, as they would have to take over his shift now. They joked about how they don't understand why he needs to hurry himself to home. After all, he wasn't even married, so it's not like he needs to see his wife. Another guy argued that this is exactly why he is excited about going home, because if he had a wife, he would rather stay at work. The staffer who was leaving pays no attention to their blabbering, and quickly leaves the place after he is done packing up. As he goes out, the guy thinks about how he doesn't have a wife to go home to, but he does have someone he needs to see. Later, we see the staffer guy at a gambling den. There, he was looking intense because he had taken a loan from the den to play. However, he calms himself down, thinking today he will win and repay them. As they continue playing what seemed like the Korean version of poker, the players start revealing their cards. This gives the staffer the required confidence boost. As he also reveals his card, he got a 9. He was feeling like Lady Luck was on his side, and that this was a sure-shot victory. However, his optimism is shattered when the remaining player mocks him and reveals his deck to be even better than his. It was a devastating loss for the staffer, made worse by the fact that the people from the den came to him and said that he just wasted the money he had loaned from them. So, now he has to figure out a way to pay them back. Later, we see the staffer in an empty room, sitting on a chair with his hands and legs tied up. He was beat up badly for not being able to pay back the money. He couldn't help but wonder how the opponent pulled out a flush deck. This is when Choi Sang-cheol enters the room. Sang Cheol tells him that he should focus on why he gambled in the first place, instead of thinking about why the opponent had a better deck. Confused, the staffer asked Sang Cheol who he was. Sang Cheol says there is no reason for him to know that. Instead, Sang Cheol has learned that the staffer works at the Daesan welfare facility, and he needs information about that from him. The staffer straight out says no to his questions, as confidential information can't be passed. However, Sang Cheol came prepared. The guy was in heavy debt, so Sang Cheol ended up buying out his debt by paying the den. So now the staffer owes him the money. However, Sang Cheol offers to forgive his debt if he provides the information. This presents a big opportunity for the staffer. So, Sang Cheol asks him if there is a guy called Du Jang-on at the facility. He shouldn't be hard to recognize, as he has plaster on both of his arms. The staffer quickly recognizes who he was talking about and confirms his existence to Sang Cheol. This was great news for Sang Cheol, but he needs to see him in person to take his life and enact revenge for Park Won-ho. So, he asks the guy to bring Jang-on from the facility to Sang Cheol. However, the staffer says that is simply not possible, and that there is no way he can smuggle out an inmate. With no other choice, Sang Cheol suggests he gets inside the facility to meet Jang-on himself. The staffer informs Sang Cheol that he probably has a wrong idea about the facility, and that the place is worse than jail. Once someone gets in, they can't get out. Sang Cheol understands that, but asks for the staffer's help to stay in the place. The staffer then tells him that there is a way to get him. He tells him that the facility patrols the city to look for homeless people and drunkards to take them in. So, if Sang Cheol pretends to be one on the specific date he tells him, then he can get inside. Sure enough, Sang Cheol does that, and he is taken into the Daesan welfare facility. The staffer asks him if he really will get his debt forgiven, to which Sang Cheol says that he will forgive the debt, and will even provide him a written contact. However, he will only do so if he enters the place safely and gets to accomplish his goal. And so, the staffer takes Sang Cheol to the 3rd platoon and introduces him as a new member. Sun Jo wonders how Sang Cheol got caught up in this, while Du Jang-on tells everyone to get along with the new guy and introduces himself to Sang Cheol. Sang Cheol connects the dots and understands that it is undoubtedly him, so he goes up to Jang-on and bows down to him. He was overly enthusiastic with his show of respect, as he says that he doesn't know what to do here. However, he does know that he must respect the people in higher positions. Jang-on gets overwhelmed by his antics and asks Sun Jo to go ahead and show Sang Cheol his bed. As they walk, Sun Jo tells Sang Cheol that he will fit in perfectly at this place, to which Sang Cheol says that he has past experiences in similar places. Sun Jo hears this and tells him that he should keep up the attitude. This pisses off Sang Cheol, who asks Sun Jo if he has an armband like Jang-on. Sun Jo says no, to which Sang Cheol tells him that then he shouldn't be telling him what to do. Intimidated by him, Sun Jo quickly shows him the bed and leaves. As Sang Cheol rests, Sun Jo goes up to Jang-on, sees his armband, and sulks. Jang-on sees it and asks him why he is sad, to which an embarrassed Sun Jo tries to hide it. Meanwhile, Sang Cheol was shocked that a guy like Jang-on got kidnapped, yet somehow managed to become a leader in this kind of a place. But he thinks this is a good thing as it will allow him to play along with this act, and when the correct time comes and Jang-on drops his guard, he will finish him off for good. The next day, Choi Sang Cheol is unceremoniously made to wake up by the alarm. This shocks him before he remembers that he is in the welfare facility. It reminds him of his military days. Shortly after, Lee Sun Jo tells everyone to gather, as they were going to do the daily roll call. Being caught up in all of this made Sang Cheol feel that getting close to Jang-on would be tough. However, he is determined to get close to him and cut his life short. However, what he didn't account for was all the other things that were going to bother him while in this place. First up, he is appalled by the food served at the canteen. He couldn't believe that such rotten and atrocious food would be served to eat. It was much worse compared to the food at the military, which is considered bad. Despite this, he has no choice, so he has to go and eat the food because of Du Jang-on. However, he glances to his side to see that even Jang-on is making faces while eating the food. making him understand that even Jang-on isn't used to the food yet. Later, they are sent to the ground for work. They were tasked to break rocks and carry them to the factory. Breaking rocks was a tough task, and it made Choi Sang-cheol question the place's status as a welfare facility. This is when he is told by the person beside him that they usually share the load of this work in platoons. However, Sang-cheol is unlucky that he had to get the shift on his first day. Angered, Sang-cheol gets to work and asks the guy beside him what work he used to do before getting in here. The guy, His Excellency, says he is the president of the country. Sang-cheol does a double take, but His Excellency doesn't change his statement. This made him even more frustrated, as he now has to deal with the mentally challenged. He couldn't help but condemn Jang-on more, as he was doing nothing because he has the armband and is injured. However, to his shock, Jang-on uses a backpack to carry a ton of rock upstairs. He blitzes through the stairs, leaving him shocked. He couldn't believe that someone could run that fast while carrying rocks upstairs. As he was astonished, His Excellency reminds Sang-cheol to get back to work, which he does. He starts breaking rocks again and ends up finding a very sharp shard of the rock, making him curious. Later in the evening, Sang-cheol is tired out and left feeling like he was a proper construction worker. The worst thing was, he wasn't even going to be paid for all this work. Eventually, the work is called off for the day, and everyone is told to return to their platoon room. But as everyone started clocking out, Sang-cheol looked the staffer guy in the eyes to indicate something. Later, at the platoon, everyone was doing the cleanup work before preparing for bed. While they were at it, Sun Jo notices that Sang-cheol wasn't around and asks His Excellency where he was. The guy says he had no idea, which irritates Sun Jo as he assumes that he must be avoiding work. However, in actuality, Sang-cheol was hiding in the work site, sharpening the rock shard he stole from earlier. He was doing so because he can't live in a place like this for any longer. So, he wants to finish it off as quickly as possible. He wants to finish it off that very night. At night, Sang-cheol waits for everyone to fall asleep before getting out of his bed and towards Jang-on with his rock shard. Meanwhile, Jang-on was fast asleep and was caught up in the dream world. In his dreams, Jang-on dreamt of preparing properly cooked meat for Sian-ah. He cooks it for her, but Sian-ah instead opts to feed him. Initially shy, he eventually decides to get fed by her. Just then, Jang-on's dream ends, as he sees Sang-cheol getting ready to stab him with the rock shard. Meanwhile, we see that a rude awakening also happened to Song Sian-ah. She was panicking, as she dreamed of Jang-on getting harmed. But she tries to divert her mind away from it, and gets ready to go to work. However, Sian-ah can't help but wonder what had happened to do Jang-on. He just disappeared one day. She even went to the construction site he used to work at to check if he was there during her lunch break. However, as she was looking for him, a guy told her that he had quit work over a week ago. The guy was also concerned if Jang-on had messed with the bank because he was the one who advised him to open a savings account. But Sian-ah makes sure to clear up that he didn't. But Jang-on quitting work means that he must have left the place as well, which is why it bothers her to think why he came to her so frequently if he only wanted to go away. He even promised to see her again, but he didn't. Her concern for her makes her smile, as she tries to convince herself that she is only concerned for him and nothing else. Despite this, she is sure that something bad must have happened, so she wants to get to the end of it. Meanwhile, at the Daesan welfare facility, Sang-cheol attacks Du Jang-on with the rock shard, but he manages to only slightly avoid it. The rock pierces through the pillow, as Du Jang-on adjusts himself to kick Sang-cheol in the face and create some separation. Sang-cheol immediately tries to go back on the attack, but by now, Jang-on has evacuated the bed. Sang-cheol then gets off the bed and goes on the search for Jang-on. Their scuffle had alerted the other inmates, as they realized that the platoon leader was fighting the new guy. Eventually, Sang-cheol found Jang-on standing in front of him. Jang-on asks Sang-cheol if he was carrying a Paleolithic rock weapon, before correcting himself and saying it is probably a Neolithic one now after sharpening. However, the main question was why Sang-cheol was attacking him. Sang-cheol prepares for battle, as he says that he is here to finish him off for good. Jang-on is taken aback by this, as he didn't know that Sang Cheol knew him. Sang Cheol says that he didn't know him before coming here, but his senior does, and Jang On knows his senior too. Jang On is left confused, so Sang Cheol elaborates that Jang On ambushed his senior and humiliated him, so he is out here to take revenge. Jang On understands that he is referring to Park Gwon-ho, and this makes him laugh. Jang On then mockingly states that the information he received about Jang On isn't fully correct. After all, he was told that Jang On had ambushed them, but they didn't tell him that he ambushed their entire group by himself and crushed them. So, there is nothing Sang Cheol can do on his own by himself. This pisses off Sang Cheol, who wants to teach the cocky Jang On a lesson. He makes a big swing at Jang On, but Jang On sees it coming and avoids the blow. Jang On is glad that his plan worked in agitating Sang Cheol. He knows that when someone is agitated like Sang Cheol, they'll make big moves and that'll grant him an opening. So, Jang On swiftly kicks Sang Cheol and disarms him. Sang Cheol is taken aback by his quick movements, but looking at the fact that Jang On's arms were useless gives him some confidence. Jang On reads Sang Cheol's mind and says that Sang Cheol might be thinking that he stands a chance against Jang On. However, as the saying goes, even a toothless tiger can shred a mere puppy to pieces. This gets on Sang Cheol's nerves again as he comes forward to attack. Jang On's plan to play mind games succeeds again. As Sang Cheol charges at him, Jang On catches him flush with a knee to the jaw. Jang On subsequently follows it up with a front chest kick and a kick to the legs to disbalance Sang Cheol. And for the final nail, Jang On hits him with a strong side kick to the face, knocking him down. Sang Cheol is left bamboozled and huffing for breath on the ground. He wondered just how could a guy like Jang On manage to be this quick and this strong despite being injured, and understands why his entire group was defeated by just him. Jang On then tells Sang Cheol that if he promises to never come after Jang On again, he will forgive him and let him live another day. However, Sang Cheol makes it clear that he will no longer be coming at him from now on. Jang On hears this and tells everyone to go back to sleep, as the problem was solved and he apologized for the ruckus. Jang On then praises Sang Cheol for his loyalty though, citing how he came here just for his senior to be a great thing. Sang Cheol tells him that he had no idea that this place was so bad. Jang On agrees, calling this place worse than anything imaginable. Following this, Jang On asks Sang Cheol what he will be doing next, to which Sang Cheol says that he no longer has anything to do. So, he will be leaving this place tomorrow. Jang On is left stunned by this, as he understands that Sang Cheol probably has no idea just how bad this place really is. The next day, it was business as usual for the inmates of the Daesan welfare facility. They got up, fixed their bed, and went to do cleanup work. Du Jang On and Lee Sun-jo were doing the cleaning, while Sang Cheol just stood there doing nothing. This bothers Sun-jo, who calls out Sun-jo for his behavior and not working properly. Sang Cheol had no intention of working, and he even intimidated Sun-jo for asking him about it. Sun-jo hides behind Jang On in fear. Sang Cheol then states that there is no need for him to work, as he will leave anyway. Sun-jo is left taken aback by his statement, while Jang On asks Sang Cheol just how he intends to get out of here. Meanwhile, the staffer who got Sang Cheol inside the facility came in and told the guys to stop talking during work hours. Sang Cheol says that there is no real need for a plan. He will just leave because he wants to leave. Sang Cheol then goes up to the staffer and tells him that he has no reason to be here and that he wants to get out. The staffer realizes there is another staff member behind him and asks Sang Cheol if he has gone crazy. Sang Cheol, however, does not care and makes it clear that his work is done, so he wants to leave and he isn't even a homeless person. The staffer pulls Sang Cheol towards him by the collar, feigning aggression, but instead telling Sang Cheol that this place is not like other welfare facilities. However, Sang Cheol says he simply does not care and that he wants out. The staffer tells him he cannot be saying stuff like this aloud and that he should keep quiet. Angered, Sang Cheol tells him that he needs to teach the staffer a lesson and show him his place. He threatens not to forgive his debts if he keeps on going like that. To the onlookers, they didn't understand what the two of them were up to, but it becomes public when the staffer pushes away Sang Cheol in anger. He had enough and couldn't take it anymore. But just then, He understood that there is no need to be angry, and that he can simply keep Sang Cheol locked here forever to avoid paying the debt. This warrants a punch in the face by Sang Cheol to the staffer, dropping him. Everyone is shocked by this, as Sang Cheol continues on by picking up his stick and battering him over the head with it. Another staffer rushes in to stop Sang Cheol, but he too gets hit on the neck by the stick, and Sang Cheol starts brutalizing both. Lee Sun-jo sees this and understands that Sang Cheol is a crazy guy, but it makes it even more impressive how Jang-on defeated him with so much ease. Jang-on smiles as he mentions how such praise is making him embarrassed. Meanwhile, on the inside, this made Jang-on realize that he can probably beat up all of the staffers by himself if he needs to. As Jang-on keeps on hitting them, taking out his anger from last night on them, the staffers cry out to be saved, and their prayers are heard as Park Yeom grabs Sang Cheol's hand. Sang Cheol looked back in anger as Park Yeom asked him just what he thought he was doing. Sang Cheol is stunned by Park Yeom as he wonders just who it was with such immaculate grip strength. But before he can react, Park Yeom pulls him in and hits him with a devastating punch, which sees his blood splatter out. Park Yeom then takes out the stick and starts pummeling Sang Cheol with it. Everyone looked on in horror, as Jang-on notes that even if he beats up everyone, Park Yeom is going to be a nuisance. Park Yeom only became more intense, as he hoped to make an example out of Sang Cheol. After all, the inmates just saw 2 staffers get beaten, so he needs to give them a reason to fear. He will beat up Sang Cheol so bad that he regains control over everyone, and that everyone starts hoping that they never make it to where Sang Cheol is currently. Kept looking like he was going to end Sang Cheol for good. But this is when Jang-on stepped in. Jang-on quickly apologizes to Park Yeom. He says that Sang Cheol is a member of his platoon, and that he seemingly had breakdown or something like that. He apologized from his behalf and wanted to discipline Sang Cheol himself as the platoon leader. This was shocking for Sang Cheol, because he didn't expect Jang-on to act like this. He was behaving differently from usual, and it made him wonder if the armband has changed him into thinking that his worlds are within the shackles of this facility. Park Yeom tells Jang-on to educate Sang Cheol well. He wants him to be fixed, because if Sang Cheol repeats such a thing again, Park Yeom will also punish Jang-on. Following this, he goes over to the staffers and asks them what went wrong. The other staffer says that Sang Cheol suddenly went aggressive and started yelling at the 3rd platoon staff member. He said something about wanting to leave and also suddenly stopped the honorifics and spoke casually to the guy. Scared of getting caught, the staffer indebted to Sang Cheol says that it is his fault for not being able to restrain Sang Cheol and apologizes for the matter. Meanwhile, Jang-on and crew carried a broken-down Sang Cheol. They asked Sang Cheol what he was thinking when he asked a staff member to let him out. Sang Cheol reveals the truth that he was brought into the facility by the staffer, and that the guy is indebted to him. Jang-on gets the point but tells him to be careful from now on. After all, the ruckus he caused has led to others speculating a connection between him and the staff member. Sang Cheol says that this isn't just his headache, as the staffer will also want this to stay hidden to save himself. However, Jang-on has an intuition. He fears that the staffer might be looking to take Sang Cheol's life to cover up the secrets about their connection from everyone. The next day, we see the inmates of the 3rd platoon working on making plastic bottles. Jang-on and Sang Cheol sat side by side, talking whilst working. Jang-on understood that Sang Cheol set up an intricate trap for the staffer to get him indebted to Sang Cheol, and made his way here. However, Jang-on wishes that he instead chose to take Jang-on out instead. Sang Cheol said he intended to do that, but the staffer said it was impossible. That being said, Jang-on still acknowledges the loyalty shown by Sang Cheol to come to a hellish place like this for his senior. Sang Cheol says that he had no idea that this place was like this. Next up, Sang Cheol asks Jang-on about his plans to escape this place, and when he plans to do it. Jang-on states that he will escape once his arms are healed. Sang Cheol asks when his arms will be healed, to which Jang-on says that the doctor said that it will take a month or so. Jang-on confirms with Sun-jo to know that he has been here for 2 weeks, so he just needed to wait for another 2. Sang Cheol asks him how he plans to escape, to which Jang-on says that he doesn't know, but he plans on getting out no matter what. This upsets Sang Cheol, as even Jang On doesn't have a clear-cut vision, and it makes his hopes of getting out bleaker. Jang On asks Sang Cheol if he didn't tell anyone that he will be coming to this place. Sang Cheol says that he did tell Park Won-ho about everything, but he doesn't know if that accounts to anything. The scene shifts to Park Won-ho's base, where he is seen to be livid with the fact that he hasn't heard back from Sang Cheol in ages. The big guy tells Guan-ho that it is possible that Sang Cheol engaged Jang On and lost to him. Guan-ho doesn't care if he lost, neither does he care about anything else. What he thinks is that Sang Cheol should have reported back to him, which he has not. So, he tells all his men to be ready because they were heading to the Daesan welfare facility, as that is the place where Sang Cheol went to get Du Jang On. The gang gets in their car and heads to the place. The goons get out, and they don't really like the facility being settled in a remote place. The goons then don't waste any time to get near the gates with baseball bats in hand. The staff members quickly rush in to ask them why they were there. But this angers the gangsters, so they start banging the door with the baseball bat, scaring all the staffers. Another staff member approached the gangsters and tried to hurl swears at them, but Park Won-ho comes forward and swears back at them. The staff are now fully intimidated, as they tell the gangsters that they'll be able to help if the gangsters tell them why they are here. Park Won-ho says that he is here to take back his little brother, Choi Sang Cheol. This had the staffers panicking, and the 3rd platoon staff realizes that these are people from Sang Cheol's gang. Just then, the vice president, Park Gwang, comes out to check the commotion. This scares the 3rd platoon staff, who quickly runs back, as he feared that there is a big chance that his secret connection with Sang Cheol was about to come out. Meanwhile, Park Gwang goes forward and approaches Guan-ho face to face. Guan-ho asks if Park Gwang is the man in charge. If so, he wanted him to open the door so they can talk properly. Park Gwang said he can't do that, as only authorized personnel can enter the room. Park Gwang was a bit taken aback by this, and asked him if his brother is really in there. Guan-ho didn't want to hear any of that, as his little brother was inside there. Park Gwang was a bit taken aback by this, and asked him if his brother is really in there. Guan-ho explains that while Sang Cheol is not his real brother, he is like one to him, and he is definitely inside. After this, Guan-ho sits down in front of the door. Park Gwang was shocked by this action. Guan-ho then told him that if he doesn't plan on staying inside forever, he should go inside and bring Sang Cheol, because they won't be moving otherwise. Park Gwang says that he will be going inside to check if there is someone named Sang Cheol inside. However, in reality, he was fuming to have a gangster come near him and cause such a commotion. Meanwhile, we see the 3rd platoon staffer desperately searching for Sang Cheol. He eventually finds him working the bottle-making job. The staffer then goes up to Sang Cheol and discreetly tells him to follow him outside if he wants to get out of here. Sang Cheol follows suit, but Jang On finds this extremely suspicious. As they keep walking to somewhere, Sang Cheol asks the staffer why he was suddenly letting him go outside, when he promised to make him rot inside forever previously. The staffer says that it was something he had said out of anger because Sang Cheol threatened with the debt. However, now he has realized that keeping Sang Cheol inside will cause speculations to arise and might get them both in trouble. So, he tells Sang Cheol there was an emergency exit ahead. The staffer then tells Sang Cheol to go ahead, as he wanted to check on something. Just as Sang Cheol goes ahead though, the guy finds this to be the right opportunity to finish him off by smashing his skull with a brick. However, before he can do so, the staffer is kicked down on the ground by Jang On, who had followed them. Sang Cheol turns around and sees what happened. Jang On points out how he had already warned him about the staffer probably looking to finish him off for good to avoid problems. This pisses off Sang Cheol beyond control, so he picks up the brick and decides to smash the staffer's head in, while Jang On pleaded him not to. He still decides to go through with it, but Jang On kicks away the brick from his hand, breaking it. He then yells at Sang Cheol for trying to do something like that, but Sang Cheol was irate and wanted to finish the staffer off right there. But Jang On warns him that this will cause his doom too. This is when the staffer gets back up and asks what was even happening. Jang On drops the honorifics and directly asks him why he was looking to take Sang Cheol's life. The guy gets pissed off by the lack of honorifics from Jang-on. However, Jang-on stood by what he said, and even cussed at him, thinking that there is no reason for someone who just tried to take a life to act so high and mighty. The guy brings out his stick to punish Jang-on, but Jang-on hits him with a knee to the gut and drops him. Jang-on feels he shouldn't be acting like this with the guy who just saved his life. After all, if it weren't for Jang-on, Sang Cheol would have taken his life by now. So, Jang-on asks the guy once again on why he wanted to take his life. The guy reveals that it is because gang members from Sang Cheol's crew have come at the main gate and are causing havoc. They are here to take Sang Cheol back, and this will be troublesome for him. Sang Cheol is happy that his senior is here and is sure that he will be able to leave now. However, the staffer tells him that it won't happen because the vice president simply won't open the door to outsiders. Sang Cheol says that then his gang mates will just break the door open. The staffer asks him if he really thinks that will work, from which an all-out argument breaks out between them. Jang-on was frustrated by their childlike argument and wondered why he even bothered saving Sang Cheol, a guy who tried to take his life previously. Jang-on wonders if this has to do with his moniker of platoon leader, which reminds him of his military days. He concludes that it has to do with the fact that he doesn't want anyone from his platoon to lose their lives again. After this, Jang-on tells the two of them to stop fighting, as with how things currently stand, both of them will be done for. They're confused by what he means, so Jang-on elaborates. He states that the vice president will be pissed when he finds out that the staffer took in a normal guy with exterior motives for his own benefits. Most other jobs would fire him for doing so, but Jang-on doubts that this organization will stop at just that. The staffer has tons of hidden information about the facility, which can get them in trouble if leaked. So, they'll much rather finish off someone like the staffer. He further adds that the vice president must be pissed off from the gangsters coming there. He won't admit Sang Cheol is inside, because him getting out would leak information too. So, instead of hiding him inside, they'll just opt to finish him. This worries the two of them, as they ask if Jang-on has a solution. Jang-on says the only solution he can think of is have the two of them pretend that they don't know each other and continue on. That's what they planned in the first place. However, both of them aren't in agreement with that, as they both tried to take each other's life moments ago. Jang-on intimidates them by saying that if they don't play along, Jang-on will finish both of them off by himself. This causes the two of them to shake hands and a treaty is formed. Seeing them bury their hatchet, Jang-on is happy to have come to a settlement. Next up, he tells Sang Cheol that if his senior really cares for him, then he won't make too much of a scene and stop before taking things too far. The scene then shifts to Park Gwang's office, where he dials up the number and calls someone influential. After some time, Park Gwang comes back to Park Gwan-ho still sitting there. He then informs Gwan-ho and crew that no one named Sang Cheol is inside there. This pisses off Gwan-ho big time. He thinks that is simply not true, as he is sure that Sang Cheol is inside that place. He then tries to threaten Park Gwang, telling him that if he continues to hold a hostage inside there and lie about it, he will call the police on them. The police will come and handle the rest then. This threat was like a joke to Park Gwang, who laughs it off and asks him if he really wants to call the cops. Just then, the police arrive in droves, shocking Park Gwan-ho, who hadn't called them yet. What is even more weird is that instead of regular police officers, detectives came instead. The detective is someone Gwan-ho knew, so he asked the detective why he was there. The detective instead tells Park Gwan-ho to come to the side with him for a little talk. Once alone, the detective tries to tell Gwan-ho to leave, but Gwan-ho says no, because he is sure that there is a member of his gang inside the welfare facility. The detective says that he does understand what Gwan-ho means. He does understand really well. However, there is nothing they can do, as even they can't touch this organization. This is baffling for Gwan-ho, who asks if the director of this welfare facility is someone who is really close with the police chief and hangs out with him regularly. The detective lets him know that the director is indeed acquainted with the police chief, but he also knows someone higher up. After all, they came to this place not because the police chief ordered them to. They came here because someone much more influential told them to. This stuns Gwan-ho as he wonders if the Daesan city mayor or even a local congressman is behind this. All in all, the detective tells him to leave this place without causing trouble. Moreover, if the person he is looking for is really inside there, it's better for them to stop now. Because the more they piss him off, the worse it'll be for the person inside. Taking all situations into account, Guan-ho calls for his guys to retreat. The big guy wasn't sure about the decision, but Guan-ho tells him to go back to the car, where he would explain everything. Guan-ho then goes up to Park Gwang and says that it might have been a misunderstanding on his part, so he apologizes. Park Gwang accepts the apology and then asks Guan-ho what was the full name of the guy he was searching for. Guan-ho was suspicious of him for asking this, so he purposefully lies and says that his name is Park Sang-cheol instead of Choi Sang-cheol. Park Gwang takes this in and greets Guan-ho off. Inside his car, Guan-ho wonders just what they do inside this welfare facility for it to be locked like this, and for them to pull strings from higher-ups. He just hopes nothing bad happened to Sang-cheol. Meanwhile, Park Gwang asks his staff where was the latest recruit assigned to. He learns that they're in the 3rd platoon. So, Park Gwang decides to go and investigate if this new recruit is Park Sang-cheol. Meanwhile, Park Yom was monitoring the other inmates doing construction work. As he was standing there, a staffer came to him and told him that Park Gwang was looking for him. Park Yun meets up with his elder brother, and he finds out about the whole Park Guan-ho situation from him. This shocked Park Yom, and he asked his brother why he told Park Yom about this when it was happening, as he could have dealt with it easily. Park Gwang tells him it is not a big deal, and that he didn't tell Park Yom because he would have created a scene by starting a fight with those people. Even so, Park Yom feels like his brother should have told him about this. But Park Gwang reassures him that it is fine and that the problem has been dealt with. The two brothers then make their way to Do Jang-on's section to do some investigation. The staffer who got beaten up by Sang-cheol attends to them and asks them why they were there. Park Gwang mentions the new inmate and asks the staffer to bring him out. Choi Sang-cheol steps forward. Park Gwang asks him if he is Sang-cheol, to which he says yes. This worries Do Jang-on, as they know Sang-cheol's name now. He wonders if Park Guan-ho had spilled everything to him. However, when asked if his name is Park Sang-cheol, Choi Sang-cheol tells Park Gwang that he is Choi. This made Park Gwang wonder what was up, because he remembers hearing that it was Park Sang-cheol. Despite that, he continues his questioning, asking what Sang-cheol used to do before he got in here. Jang-on was worried that Sang-cheol would end up telling the truth, and was praying for that to happen. Luckily enough, Sang-cheol says that he was a homeless person, just like everyone else in the facility. This makes Jang-on breathe a sigh of relief, as he realizes that Sang-cheol is not as stupid as he had assumed. But this is when Park Yom steps in and points out that Sang-cheol was the one who created a scene by asking the staffer to let him out of the facility. He appeared pretty damn confident while he was talking to the staffer, to the point that it almost looked like the two had agreed upon this beforehand. Not only that, but Park Yom has also heard that Sang-cheol and the staffer are close and are often seen talking together in private. The staffer is made nervous by this, and Park Gwang asks whether there was any truth to Park Yom's suspicion. In the heat of the moment, Sang-cheol smartly bows down and apologizes for having created a scene. He states that he tried to pick on the staffer because he looked like the easiest person to mess with. Park Gwang, curious, asks him if he really only did it because the staffer looked easy. Choi Sang-cheol doubles down and tells the general manager to take a look at the staffer, who, according to him, looked like a total piece of crap. Sang-cheol's description of the staffer can't help but make Park Gwang giggle a bit. He finds it hilarious yet surprising how an inmate has the courage to demean a staffer like that. Sang-cheol once again apologizes, and this was enough for Park Gwang, who subsequently tells them to focus on work before leaving. As the two brothers make their way out, Park Yom asks Park Gwang if he is really okay with letting things slide so easily. Park Gwang tells him that they don't really have grounds to do anything. Moreover, he suggests that the gangsters who came by could have actually misunderstood things, and there might not be any issues after all. He also tells his brother not to dwell on such little things, as these things hold one back from focusing on the bigger picture. Furthermore, if things start going against their will, Park Yom can always carry out one of his cleanup sessions, because even if they don't have any evidence against it, the fact remains that the Sang-cheol matter is making them uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Sang Cheol, Jang On, and the staffer once again meet up in private. The staffer was happy that he still gets to live on for now. On the other hand, Jang On praises Sang Cheol's smartness, saying he expected him to do worse, but he actually handled the situation quite well. Sang Cheol is glad things went well, but mentions that he doesn't want to stay here, stuck forever. The staffer then mentions that there is a way to get out of here safely. He talks about the reformer system, which allows a reformed inmate to leave the welfare facility and join the outside world again. Jang On recalls such a system existing as well and confirms it to Sang Cheol. The staffer then promises to Sang Cheol that he will do his best to get him out using the reformer system. The scene then changes to the Yoan hostel, where Jang On used to live. Song Seon arrives at the place, but she wonders why she is wasting a precious weekend coming to a place like this. Not only that, but she also feels guilty for having snuck into the main office and scrutinized Jang On's bank documents to get his address. Anyway, she looked around to see that the place was quite run down, and thought about how it must have been hard for Jang On to live in such a place. This is when the landlady shows up and asks Seon if she has business here. If so, she should talk to her because she is the owner of the place. Seon asks her if someone named Jang On lives there. The lady asks Seon if she is his lover, which makes her blush. However, Seon understands that if she says that she is not Jang On's lover, the lady will probably not tell her about him. So, Seon lies about being Jang On's girlfriend. The lady is surprised by this. She mentions how Jang On always talks about being busy at work, yet he has a cute girlfriend on the side. The lady then asks him why she was there. Seon mentions how it has been 15 days since he left, citing some work, and has not contacted her. The lady says that Jang On told her the same thing, but has not reached back. However, she finds it strange that he has not contacted his lover. The lady then adds that Jang On's belongings were still inside his room, and he has also paid the month's rent, so she does not think that he has run away. Seon asks the lady if he told her where he was going. This makes the lady recall the day Jang On left. He suddenly came in and informed her that he had quit his job. She asked him what he intended to do now, to which Jang On reassured her by telling her that he had something else to do. He then told her how he had some work to attend to and that he would be back by tomorrow at the latest. The lady also told him to come back soon, because without him, it would be hard to handle all the drunkards living in the hostel. But before leaving, he did give her the contact of a person, just in case it was needed. He wrote it on a piece of paper for the lady. So, she gives Seon the card that has the phone number of Jo Tae-moon. The lady states that she did not call the number because she did not want to bother Jang On and let him come back when he wanted to. But she tells Seon to hit it up to contact him. Seon thanks her for that, but when the lady asks her when she plans on marrying Jang On, she becomes shy and nervous. After that, the lady tells her about how, despite living here and working a construction job, Jang On is actually a nice guy. So, for him not contacting her, there must be some reason behind it. Seon smiles and agrees, then makes her way out. As she walks, Seon wonders if it is really okay to call this number, or was doing too much for no reason. Anyway, that is for Jang On to decide, so she plans on asking him when they eventually meet again. Back at the Daesan Welfare Facility's 3rd platoon, everyone was doing cleanup work, whether they liked it or not. It did not matter. Jang On was playfully making them all do the work, while also participating himself. The 1st and 2nd platoon leaders watched this and talked about how they did not like the new platoon leader and his volunteering to clean. They didn't like him because he was not like them and didn't act as a platoon leader should. Instead, he was just joking around and acting normal with the guys. They also asked the 4th and 5th platoon leaders what they thought of this. The 4th platoon leader mentions that he doesn't like how Jang On replaced the original 3rd platoon leader and took his place. The 5th agrees and adds that their own subordinates have been acting suspiciously ever since. It is almost like they are waiting for an opportunity to start a coup as well. The 2nd suggests they just take care of the 3rd for messing with them. The 5th wants to as well, but he thinks doing that will give everyone else justification to turn against them. The 1st platoon leader thinks that it is right and that they cannot do something so major without preparation. He thinks that a person like Jang On, who ousted the 3rd platoon leader, needs to be made an example of. so that everyone else knows that the platoon leaders won't take kindly to coup ambitions. The fourth takes that as a sign that they will be teaming up to bust Jang On. But the fifth platoon leader mentions how Jang On is a formidable foe, who is not to be taken lightly. The first leader knows that, but he doubts that even someone as strong as Jang On would be able to fight off a group of people by himself. They were already 4 guys themselves, and if they were able to gather a few more kids from their platoons, they would have the numbers advantage. The fourth leader asks them what the plan should be. Do they just charge directly at the third platoon? The first turns that down because it does not make sense. Instead, he suggests they tell Jang On to come out by himself. The others don't think it would go so easily, but the first insinuates that he has a bait in mind. After the day's work was over, Jang On lay down on his bed, thinking about how another day had passed by inside the hell that is the Daesan welfare facility. He wonders if his arms have healed since then, but there is no way to tell, as they are always bandaged up. Jang On then thinks about how he wants to get out of this place. With each passing day, he misses Song Si and Ah even more. He also misses the good food. He is tired of having fish paste that is so dated that it feels more rotten than fermented. Not to mention the vegetables that are so badly cooked that they are hardly recognizable as such. However, he also knows that thinking about these things is futile, so he just decides to close his eyes and sleep. Just then, the second platoon leader comes to him and tells him to wake up. He tells Jang On that there is something they need to talk about, so Jang On should come outside. Jang On asks him what it is that he wants to talk about because it was almost time for the rooms to be shut down. But the second platoon leader insists he comes outside, and so Jang On joins him. Once outside, the second platoon leader informs him that the platoon leaders are gathering for a meeting. They are organizing in a room, and they want the third platoon leader to come along with them. Jang On could not be less interested in that. After all, he does not like people who like to indulge in superiority. However, when the second platoon leader mentions the topic of some late-night snacks, Jang On can't help but be interested. He follows the second platoon leader while being skeptical of the matter. Eventually, the second platoon leader takes him to the room. Upon entering, Jang On receives a warm welcome from all the other platoon leaders, who mention how they should have called him sooner, but it ended up taking time. Seeing them, Jang On becomes uninterested again, but when his eyes catch a glimpse of Ramian, he is stunned. He asks if that was really Ramian, to which the second leader confirms it. Jang On is then shocked by the fact that they actually had metal chopsticks there, because those were banned in the welfare facility. The others tell him it is fine, and that everything there, including the ramen and metal chopsticks, has been approved by the welfare facility. After all, they are platoon leaders, not just random inmates. This pisses off Jang On, who doesn't like how they find happiness and superiority in such a little thing. He didn't want to indulge with them at all, but seeing Ramian there, he couldn't leave, even if he wanted to. After this, the fifth platoon leader brings some water to boil the Ramian in. However, he fills the entire bowl with water. This was off-putting for Jang On, who knows that this is not the way Ramian is cooked. So, he tells them that he will be the one cooking. Jang On subsequently goes off to do it himself. He wonders if those guys have never made Ramian themselves. He thinks he is better off doing it himself rather than letting those guys ruin it. The fifth leader watched on in shock, as he wondered what made Jang On want to boil the Ramian himself. Meanwhile, the fourth leader mentions how he did not expect Jang On to be this kind of person. But this meant that Jang On is really interested in eating the Ramian because he was acting nonchalant at first. The fifth leader asks what they should do now, and if they should call the other guys to beat Jang On up. However, the first platoon leader suggests they let him have the Ramian for today and postpone their plan for next time. After all, the guy stepped up to cook it himself. He states how Jang On might be acting casual, but he is probably still on high alert from the inside. His expression when he first came in was enough to tell how Jang On did not think highly of them. So, the first leader thinks they are better off gaining Jang On's trust by letting him eat Ramian today. The second leader asks if they should focus on preparing the other guys for the proper beatdown later, to which the first leader says yes. He plans on teaching Jang On a lesson and setting an example on what would happen to people who cross the line. Meanwhile, Jang On focuses on cooking Ramian. He has a good estimate on how much water is needed when he is cooking using the pot in his house. However, because he is using a different one here, his calculations aren't going to be accurate. But Jang On does know that when in doubt, people should just opt for less water because one can add more water if needed. However, if they add extra water from the beginning, there is no coming back. Jang On's seriousness while cooking ramen was coming off quite weird to others. He was also adding the seasoning before the water had even boiled. But Jang On was doing this for a reason. Even though there are rumors that adding seasoning first makes the water boil faster, that is up for debate. The real reason why he does it is that when the steam from the water gets up, it ends up causing moisture, which makes the seasoning powder stick to the packet. Jang On drops the noodles on the water. He does not break it, although he thinks that if someone wants to break the noodles, that is fine too. He is also not much of a stirring guy, he just lets the noodles do its magic. After that, he takes off the noodles from the stove while it is still a bit undercooked. Why? Because the pot still remains hot even when it is off the stove. That heat will slowly cook the ramen to perfection. Jang On makes all the platoon leaders wait until he thinks the food is cooked properly. And once he thinks it is time to go, he tells everyone to eat it right away. Everyone was a bit skeptical at first, but when they tried to talk to Ramen, they understood how good his ramen was. The fifth leader mentions how Jang On did a good job managing the water, while the fourth praises him for just being a good cook. Jang On himself tries the ramen, and he can't help but be mesmerized by how good it tasted. It made him wonder if ramen had always tasted so good, or if this was thanks to him having it after ages. The five of them end up finishing the pot of ramen in no time. After that, the second platoon leader commends Jang On for being so good at making ramen, something everyone else agrees with. Jang On tells them that he could have done an even better job if only he had gotten some green onions and eggs to add to it. This is when the first platoon leader tells him that he can try and get those ingredients for Jang On next time. This kind of surprises Jang On, but the first platoon leader suggests they strengthen their bond as platoon leaders. Honestly, Jang On had no interest in being friends with people like them. However, because Jang On really wants to have ramen again, he shakes hands with them and forms a pact. Later, as the first and second platoon leader walk together, the second asked the first how he intended to get all those items next time. This kind of confuses the first leader, so the second elaborates that he was referring to what the first said earlier. The first platoon leader explains that there is no need for him to get such items. He said it so that Jang On stays interested and comes back again. When he eventually comes back though, they won't be giving him eggs and green onions though. They will instead give him a beatdown using all their lackeys. Meanwhile, Jang On goes to sleep feeling well as he did eat well after a long time. He falls asleep immediately while thinking about ramen and whether or not he would really get to eat it again. As he dozes off, he suddenly hears someone's voice calling out to him in his dreams. Jang On goes after that voice, trying to find out who it belongs to. He soon understands that it was Song Seon Ah's voice, and she was telling him that she was going to see him soon. Sure enough, in real life, Seon Ah was actually taking a bus to go to Daesan City, following the address that was written on the paper alongside Jo Tae-moon's number. Upon arriving, Seon Ah is a bit overwhelmed by how Daesan is. It being her first time, there didn't make things any easier. She wondered how she would get to the address written on the paper, but with some hassle, she ended up finding the place. She stood outside of the office room, breathing a sigh of relief for having finally arrived at her destination. Just then, Jo Tae-moon and his secretary arrived there as well, and they ask Seon Ah who she was and why she was there. Seon Ah tells them that she came to them to talk about Jang On, which interested Tae-moon. They go inside the office room where they talk over tea. Tae-moon asks her if he should refer to as sister-in-law. Seon Ah tells him not to, because she and Jang On aren't married yet. However, Tae-moon sees this as a positive, because she said they aren't married yet, which means that they do plan on getting married eventually. So that does make her his sister-in-law. Seon Ah blushes but doesn't deny it, because it is beneficial for her at the moment. After that, he asks her how she got to know of this place. Seon Ah tells him how Jang On left the address and contact to this place with the landlady of his hostel. Seon Ah got the contact from her. Tae-moon then asks her why she is paying a visit and if Jang On sent her here. This is when Seon Ah reveals that Jang On hasn't returned home after leaving some 15 days ago. This stunned Jo Tae-moon, who couldn't believe it. After all, Jang On said that he would head straight home after the work was finished. Sienna asks him why Jang-on came here to begin with. Tae-moon informs her about how Jang-on came to help him do a job, because he is a man who has a lot of networks. Sienna then asks her if Jang-on faced any issues while working for him. Tae-moon reluctantly replies and tells Sienna about Jang-on's arm breaking. This worries Sienna, who asks Tae-moon if something serious has happened. Tae-moon fears that she would get scared if he reveals the severity of the matter, so he tells her it was a minor injury. Still, Sienna worried where Jang-on might have gone with an injured arm. Tae-moon intervenes and tells her not to worry. He promises to search for Jang-on and find out where he is. Tae-moon thinks he is the right person for this because he knows Dae-san well. This relieves Sienna somewhat and she tells him to go ahead. Tae-moon then asks his secretary to drop Sienna back off to her house. Sienna tells him that he doesn't need to, and that she can take a bus ride back home. However, Tae-moon insists that he helps her, because he owes a lot to Jang-on, so he can do as much as take care of her. Sienna gives in and agrees but wonders if Jang-on will think of her as a strange person when he finds out that she lied about being his fiancée. Meanwhile, Tae-moon whispers to his driver to drop her off and then pay a visit to Tae-moon's hostel. There, he wants him to talk to the landlady and find out if Jang-on really left his contact with her, and if that lady was the one who passed it on to Sienna. Furthermore, he wants him to confirm if Jang-on has really not gone home since that day. After that, the driver takes Sienna back to her place, while Tae-moon stood there, confused as to what was even happening. The next day at the Daesan welfare facility, Jang-on was doing the regular cleanup work, but he had the biggest smile on his face. He was still thinking about ramen from the night before, and how it tasted fantastic. Sun-jae notices Jang-on's jolly mood and asks him if something great had happened to him. Jang-on smiles and simply replies that he is enjoying the sunshine. However, his smile is substituted with a look of dread come time for lunch. Why? Because the crappy canteen food felt even worse than normal because the taste of good food was still on his palate. It was a drag, but Jang-on somehow made it through. While he was getting out of the canteen, the other platoon leaders greeted Jang-on warmly and told him that they'll be seeing each other again soon. Jang-on responds warmly too. Sun-jae asks Jang-on if he has developed a friendly relationship with the platoon leaders, to which Jang-on told him that they've decided that all platoon leaders should get along better. In the meantime, Jang-on was still thinking about ramen. He wondered if they saying that he will meet them again soon meant that they would have him over for ramen again soon. Jang-on acknowledged the fact that his mind was being plagued by thoughts of ramen. It was almost like a boy only thinking about the girl after getting their first kiss. Later that night, Jang-on was on his bed and he was still thinking about ramen and was craving to have it some more. This is when Sun-jae comes to him and informs Jang-on that the second platoon leader has been looking for him. This makes Jang-on spring up from his bed, and he thanks Sun-jae for telling him before sprinting off in hopes of getting ramen again. Sun-jae sees this and notices that Jang-on's behavior has been a bit strange as of late. Jang-on meets up with the second platoon leader, who tells him that they've managed to get their hands on some green onions and eggs, just as Jang-on had suggested. Hearing this, Jang-on imagines just how great that ramen would be, and he follows the second platoon leader to the room with spring in his steps. However, when he enters the room, all he sees were the other platoon leaders and an empty bowl. There was no ramen packet or anything of that sort. Naturally, Jang-on asks them where the stuff was, but they assured him that it was being brought soon. Jang-on was happy with that. Suddenly though, a bunch of guys had arrived and they looked pissed off. Confused, Jang-on asked the platoon leaders what was going on. This was when they joked about how those guys had supposedly brought the ramen packets with them. Seeing them warm up pretty much alerted Jang on what they were intending to do, and it disappointed him tremendously. Jang-on turned around and confronted the platoon leaders, asking them if they held a grudge against him. The platoon leaders tell him that it is not exactly a grudge, rather a punishment for Jang-on's crime. Jang-on's crime being his insolence to attack the previous third platoon leader and usurp his position. This was all sounding ridiculous to Jang-on, who thought they were making it sound like he had taken someone else's royal crown or something. The platoon leaders tell him how much of a problem he has caused for everyone by doing what he did. But Jang-on thinks they shouldn't act like this when they're all basically caged birds. Angered, the platoon leaders tell the guys to attack Jang-on. However, Jang-on was more than ready. For him, those guys were his ramen packets, and he was ready to break them well today. The first guy runs in with intent, but Jang-on simply knocks him out with a roundhouse kick to the head. Jang-on claims him as the first packet done breaking. As everyone else is shocked, Jang-on takes advantage of it by hitting the next guy with a wicked knee strike to the face, taking him out instantaneously. He claims that one as his second. Just then, one of them tries to take him out by attacking from behind, but, being a military officer in the past, Jang-on spots him and takes him out with a strange horse kick to the head, making him see the lights. That was Jang-on's third packet. Now he stared down the fourth guy who was too scared to make a move. Jang-on taunts him, but the second platoon leader motivates him to go and attack Jang-on. The guy musters up courage and tries to attack Jang-on, but this was a huge mistake. Jang-on cuts down his movement immediately with a hard leg kick that would make even Poatan proud. This drops the guy to his knees and Jang-on seals his fate with a stomp to the head. This was his fourth and final packet. Then, almost nonchalantly, Jang-on turns around and asks the platoon leaders if there is really no ramen today. The fifth platoon leader explains how ramen is a premium food, which they only get their hands on rarely. This pisses off Jang-on, as he was really craving it. He tells the platoon leaders that they've messed up, and messed up bad. This scares the crap out of them and they try to apologize to Jang-on, but it was too late. Jang-on informs them that his name is Jang-on and not the third platoon leader before. He beats them all up badly and leaves the room a thrashed-up mess. Before leaving, though, Jang-on notices metal chopsticks laying on the floor, so he picks them up and hides them inside his cast, citing that those could see some use someday. Just before heading out, Jang-on tells the platoon leaders to inform him when they get ramen and not just feast on it by themselves. After he leaves, the first platoon leader, beaten up, vows to take revenge on him. He asks the fifth platoon leader about the crazy guy in his platoon. The fifth platoon leader asks him what he wants with that guy, to which the first platoon leader simply tells him to bring him over.